Hey, welcome to Norm Mac Show. Host Rob Nor. Hope you're having a fantastic one. You know, I am always in a good mood when I'm wearing my Legends of Hidden Temple shirt. So, good day today. I had a little back doctor appointment, working out some stuff with my back for my herniated disc, which doesn't seem to be getting much better. That's all right. We'll power through that. We got some stuff on the horizon for that as well. Thank you to everyone for the kind words last night for me becoming an employee of Andrew Wilson and the Crucible, working with those great guys over there, and the kind words that people have left me since then. It's really amazing, and I can't thank you all enough for that. But we're not going to ruminate on that totally. Today, we're going to be doing a call-in show at some point. We'll try to go at least 2 hours, though if I start arguing with some lefty, maybe it'll go a little longer than that. I'll put the link out. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little about the Democrats' insurrection today. And also, we're going to try some things that are different to make my show more professional and to make it better for my editor to be able to deal with things without having to sift through 4.5 hours of me just rambling on, as I tend to do from time to time. So a couple things that we're going to be talking about today at some point. One, still going to be asking people's input on what time they think I could stream. I have some more sort of details that I've worked out. So what I'm looking for is a time that I'm going to be streaming consistently pretty much 5 days a week. So that's something that we'll be working on, right? The second thing is that we'll be discussing sort of the ins and outs of what the pros and cons of some of those times would be and getting you all's opinion. I'm going to put some polls up on X and on YouTube, try to work out some opinions. What that might look like for the next month or so is sort of some days doing stuff at different times to see which time works best for the majority of the audience. So we'll be looking into that. Also, there's some brief format things that I'm going to change. One of those things is that I feel that some of the stuff that I've been doing doesn't really make sense for the flow of a show. One of those is the way in which I read super chats. So I read super chats basically as they come in. I would like to change that format. And instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to have periods of time throughout the show when I read super chat. So I'm not going to wait to read them all at the end of the show, but maybe I'll talk for 15, 20 minutes, then read a group of super chats. Then I'll talk another 15, 20 minutes, then read a group of super chats. Or like tonight, a call-in show. I'll take a call. When I'm done talking with that person, then I'll get to super chats. Then we'll take the next call, then read any super chats that occurred there. I hope people are okay with that. I like to read the super chats as soon as they come in because I feel if people are spending their hard-earned money to donate to me to give some sort of message, that I should be thrilled to read that message as quickly as possible. But I can see how that interrupts the flow of a live stream, particularly if you're not watching it live. So if my editor wants to cut out 20 minutes of my live stream and have it be sort of a thing where an audience that maybe is normally not watching me live and they're just interested in the title or the subject of that video to tune in, it's very hard for them to like, oh, Rob was 2 minutes into talking about the Democrats' insurrection, and then he started reading Corey Barton's $2 super chat about working for Big Soda. What the heck is that? So it either is nonsensical to an audience that wasn't watching live, or it means that my editor, Black Elk, who's tremendous, has to do a ton of work that's just sort of nonsensical. Other thing is, Grok says 5 to 7 is the best time. Maybe that's time that maybe we'll reach. The other thing is that I think that one of the things that's ridiculously hard for anyone that's going to try to edit is to watch all of my material. So if you're my editor, Black Elk, and we set a goal of like, let's do one video a day from my live stream, cut out like a 10 to 20 minute section. That means Black Elk has to watch my entire stream every night and then pick out a 20-minute section. I think what would be best is if I try to make that easier. And I'm going to do something today that probably looks really amateurish, but it's just something that I'm going to try new. I created a PowerPoint. I think that summarizing one of the topics that I want to talk about at the top of the show and going through like my talking points on it, sort of like how Bill O'Reilly used to do the talking point memo or how Tucker Carlson used to do the monologue at the beginning. I think that something like that will make it easier for Black Elk to at least have a section that would be easy to edit early in my show. So that way he's got a life too. He doesn't want to sit around and listen to 4.5 hours of me every day to look out for a 20-minute clip. So I think that might make things easier. Now, I haven't been able to figure out how to use PowerPoints to the full extent on StreamYard. I think that I have a workaround today, but I actually spent time trying to get a little ditty. It was like going to be the beginning of the Midnight Special theme song that I used to have for my intro. It was going to be the beginning of that, like 3 seconds of it. And then, you could have the cool animations each time you click. I couldn't figure out how to get that to work on StreamYards. So we'll see if I can figure that out some other day. But I do think that I got that PowerPoint running. But the other thing is I'm in talks with updating my logos, things of that nature. And I think that we're going to consider, I got to talk to Black Elk, but I think we're going to consider massively shortening the intro to my show. And the reason for that is, the reason I have a long intro right now is to give people time to get the notification and come in. And largely that's important because I'm not streaming at consistent times. So maybe some days I'm streaming at 7, some days I'm streaming at 8:30, some days maybe I'm streaming at 6:30. And because of that, people have no idea when I'm streaming. So they need that time for the notification so that we could get people to filter in. Otherwise, if I just start talking, like people I watch, like Scott Adams will just be like, hey, welcome to Scott Adams Show or whatever. It's a great day today. Bump, a bump, a bump. And he'll start off and they'll do the simultaneously sip and then they're rolling. I can't really do that because for the first 5 to 10 minutes of my video, there's far less people watching than 15 minutes and on because people are waiting for those notifications. But if I'm streaming every day at 7 p.m., then I think the regular audience will know, okay, 7 p.m. Rob's on every night unless, something came up. And so I think that will allow me to shorten down that intro time because it is one of the complaints that I see in a lot of my videos. Hey, shorten your intro. We're tired of it. Along with that will come probably me rambling less at the beginning here. So I might be like, hey, hope you're having a great day. I had a good day today. Went to T-ball practice with Hank. He hit a double. It was fantastic. But yeah, let's jump in, man. So here's what we're talking about today. So it's likely that's at least what I'm going to try here after a week or so to transition to, hopefully to get people more interested in, because I think maybe I lose people just rambling on about some of this stuff. Now, apologies that as I'm saying that, what am I doing? Rambling on about stuff that's not pertinent to sort of the story that we're going to talk about today. But I think that people could give me a leeway, seeing as how we're trying a new format and we're trying to become full-time streamer. So if you're giving super chats today, I promise I'll get to them, but we're going to get to them in a time frame that makes sense. And we're going to, sort of play around with the direction that we're doing things here. So it should be good. Sorry, I got a message there. Thank you, everyone, for the congratulations. I really appreciate it. So, call-in show today. First, we're going to talk about Democratic insurrection. So, we're supposed to have a little theme song that went with this. So, it's supposed to be like, dun, 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 dun. Boop. There we go. Nord's Notes. Let's talk about it, shall we? Democrats have convinced me of the seriousness of insurrections. In fact, the whole lead up into the 2024 election was Democrats constantly relitigating a day that happened 4 years previous on January 6th. And after having debated Democrat after Democrat and seeing the people in the mainstream media, but I repeat myself, they're just Democrats, tell me constantly the seriousness, and people like Adam Kissinger crying and so emotional. It was the darkest day since 9/11, the worst attack on the United States since Pearl Harbor. I'm now convinced insurrections are so horrific, so terrible that we must focus on them for years at a time. It is the only way that we could save our country, by calling out these terrible, terrible insurrections. Now, I've debated a lot of fantastic Democrats, and a lot of them have defined insurrection in different ways. And I argued against this because I thought the definition was too broad. We heard people talk about, well, an insurrection could be if a couple hippies get together and protest marijuana laws and one of them shoves a police officer. That would be an insurrection. And it seemed way too broad. But no, I now realize they were right. We should broaden out that definition of insurrection. After all, it's one of the most terrible, terrible, terrible things that could happen to you as a country. We must fight back against insurrections. I've been convinced they've made a believer out of me. But what is an insurrection? Well, I debated an incredible scholar just a fantastic person and debater by the name of Destiny, and a lot of his orbiters as well. And they were very articulate using these authors, Bowden Paulson, about what an insurrection was. So here's almost verbatim for my 5.5 hour debate with Destiny, which he rage quit on. Verbatim how he defined what an insurrection is. One, it's an assemblage of people that are united for a common purpose. Left out the word purpose there, sorry. So in other words, a group of people that are there for the same reason. Got it? Second, they're resisting, I guess, the implementation or the execution of a particular law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. So if they don't like a particular law, if there's a government proceeding like arresting people, certifying an election, whatever, if they're resisting that, that's step 2 to being an insurrection. Third, by way of force or intimidation, if they push security or law enforcement, if they stand there shouting, intimidating things, well, there you go. And lastly, it's for a public purpose. So it can't be for like, we don't like that our friend Jim had his car repoed. It would have to be against repossessions in general, or maybe against a particular government facility or entity or types of laws that are being enforced. That would be an insurrection, anything that met that 4 criteria. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, it seems like that would mean that so many Black Lives Matter protests, so many Antifa protests, Vietnam War protests, and many others would meet the definition of insurrection. And you're right. But as we've already talked about, insurrection is so important that we must resist. We must fight back against these insurrections. The great Democrat icon Destiny made these points in a debate with me, along with so many other amazing Democrat scholars. I consented to debate them, and they were more than happy to share their great wisdom, how this was the criteria for an insurrection. And these same Democrats were also very insistent that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that anyone who engages in an insurrection should not, and already has federal office, should not be allowed to hold federal office again. That's why they were so insistent that Donald Trump be kicked off the ballot. That's what the Colorado court said as they tried to remove their opponent, Donald Trump, who would then go on to win that election. You know, it was in the name of democracy that they needed to remove him from the ballot. He engaged in an insurrection. He said words like fight like hell. My goodness, can you believe the horror? One of the darkest days in the history of our country. Today's May 9th, 2025. It's the day it's going to live in infamy in this country. Democrat officials, in one of the worst attacks that we've seen since Pearl Harbor, decided to engage in an insurrection against an ICE facility. They illegally trespassed in that facility, and they assaulted federal law enforcement officials. Only by the grace of God did none of those law enforcement officials die. But we have no idea. Who knows? Maybe a year, 2 years from now, some of those officials could end their own life. And as we know with January 6th, that means that would have been murder by these Democrats, including Democrat officials that engaged in this insurrection. Yesterday, I was all giddy. I came on here to tell you about my 4-year-old, how I took him to his first t-ball practice. I live in rural Pennsylvania. It's so cold here over the winter. We had a lot of snow. We've hit spring. The sun is shining. The leaves are coming out. It's so green. You're on a ball field. Kids having fun. That's America. All this diversity, boys, girls, doesn't matter what your pronouns are, playing t-ball on the same team. And I took a deep breath and said, finally, this country's uniting. It's coming back together. This is what this country's about. And now I have to go downstairs and tell my 4-year-old that one of the major political parties in this country just committed an insurrection. I'm shaking, is how scared I am, how furious. I hope that a great leader like Adam Kissinger could get to the television and shed tears to let us know how somber of a day this is. We must fight back against this insurrection. So what can we do? First, all of the Democrat officials that hold office, that engaged in this insurrection, and there are several. The mayor of Newark was one. There were others. All of them should be removed from office and never allowed to run again. When Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was crafted, this is the exact scenario they were talking about. I know, you think they were referencing the Civil War and the fact that no one's been removed from office using these provisions since the times of the Civil War means that we've gotten past that. But no, the Democrats convinced me. They convinced me when it was going against Donald Trump that this is the way. We must do this. We must fight against insurrections. All of the Democrat officials and their minions that were there, these disgusting anti-American insurrectionists, must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Put them in solitary confinement. They tried to overthrow our country. We must start Insurrection Hunter Task Force. Name these people, shame them, get their pictures out there, call their places of employment, arrest every single one of them that participated in this insurrection. We want to know, how did they get there? What bus did they take? What airplane? Where do they do their banking? Just like with the people of January 6th. We must know all of these details. All communications of every single one of these insurrectionists should be investigated by what I hope will be the largest FBI task force in the history of this country. We must do it to protect our country. Who were these people emailing? Who were they calling on the phone? We must know. Who are their neighbors? Did they ever talk to? Leave no stone unturned. No amount of resources are too much for the FBI under Kaj Patel to go after these people. We must set up a congressional committee made exclusively of people that are partisanly against these very Democrats. It should be hiring TV producers to help make this must-see primetime TV. This is the lesson that was learned. This is the standard that the noble Democrats before that were fighting for this country against insurrectionists have set forth. And now how far have the Democrats fallen? Any Democrat who defends this insurrection and talks about the dangers of ICE or the need to repeal laws or ICE facilities being like concentration camps or suggests that it was wrong to arrest these insurrectionists should also be investigated and be removed from office for engaging in an insurrection. We must see their emails. We must know, were they in communication with the insurrectionists? We must know. These are the standards that were set forth. Government needs to be pressuring social media. Places like X, they should be in personal communication with Elon Musk, much like they were with Jack Dorsey and his crew. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Anyone who is now critical of ICE or deportation should be considered dangerous and should not be allowed to say these things online. They must be censored. Much like conversations about the election being stolen circa 2020 had to be censored on social media, so too must the rhetoric of these insurrectionists being critical of ICE. I do not want to hear people saying people were unfairly deported, that their due process rights will be violated. This is the rhetoric of the insurrectionist. It's dangerous and could inspire more insurrectionists. So for the sake of our safety, to ensure that a dark day like this does not happen in our country again, we must censor these people. May 9th, 2025 will go down as one of the darkest days in the history of this country. We must never let Democrats live down the terror they've inflicted. 4 years from now, every time you hear a Democrat speak up, do you condemn the Democrats' actions on May 9th, 2025? Unlike January 6th, we actually have Democrat politicians who broke the law, terrorizing these ICE agents. Who knows how many of them will take their own life in the future because of the horrors that they saw today? Never let them forget. The midterms, the 2028 election, all of it should be a referendum on the Democrat insurrectionists. It's a dark day. It's tough. And I just want to thank the wonderful Democrats like Destiny that showed me the light. This is the way. And no doubt, you'll see those Democrats, Destiny and all of his orbiters and all the other left-wing streamers and media personalities and politicians and the right wing, the Liz Cheneys and the Adam Kissinger, no doubt, all of them right now. The only reason they haven't issued statements so far is they're so shook. They're probably in the fetal position under their desk crying right now to live through such a horrific insurrection. No doubt, though, by the end of the day, they'll be putting out harsh statements on how they are disgusted by these Democrats that engaged in this insurrection. I know they're people of integrity. It couldn't be possible that their previous claims about insurrection surrounding January 6th were only done so for political reasons, and they actually didn't care about it. Instead, they were just trying to score political points. That couldn't be possible. There's no way. These people, like Destiny, have too much integrity, and all of his orbiters, many of which who I debated. These are people of integrity. I suppose Destiny will also say now Democrats are effing around and finding out if they go to Democrat events and people use physical violence against them. That's how much consistency and integrity that people like Destiny and these Democrats have. And I don't want to hear, oh, but it was, it wasn't that bad. Don't even belittle what this insurrection was. I don't want to hear it. Oh, but they didn't have weapons. How many of them had pens in their pockets? Those are piercing weapons. How many used their fists as bludgeoning weapons? We just found out that the popes, for the first time from America, may God shine his light down on us on such a terrible day. Now, I know a lot of people are asking, well, what happened? So I'm going to play you a video. Now, I'm going to ask, please, any children in the room, please ask them to leave. This is going to be really difficult to watch. Your country being attacked in such a way by actual politicians elected in this country. It's hard to watch. So give everyone a chance. Give everyone a chance to clear out the room of all the children, the faint of heart. Okay. Now, there's multiple clips, but I only have the stomach to show you this one. I want you to focus on this woman in red. She's an elected Democrat official, congressperson. Watch how she brutally puts her hands on these federal officials, other people in these crowds, putting their hands on assaulting federal officials. Where's the tear gas? Why aren't these officials launching tear gas at these people? That was the lesson of January 6th, right? Why aren't they beating them with clubs? That's how we do things, right? My goodness, they were going after officials. We know what the answer to Ashley Babbitt was, don't we? But hey, I'm glad they were able to stop this insurrection without using violence. But we saw those Democrats assaulting him. Now, I know what you're saying. Wait a minute. Are you being correct about what great, consistent patriots of this country like Destiny said when they defined what an insurrection? Surely, they didn't define insurrection so broadly that that would be included in what an insurrection is, right?
What is the, hold on, let me find my, okay, I think I had 4 points for mine. I think one is you have an assemblage of people that are usually united for a common purpose. You've got, you're resisting, I guess, like the implementation or the execution of a particular law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. You are doing this by way of force or intimidation, and it's for like a public purpose, like some kind of like public grievance or whatever, not to like protest like a particular like outcome of a particular court trial or something.
Okay. So let's go back to that slide, shall we? Assemblage of people that are united for a common purpose. Yep, they were all there to protest ICE, Donald Trump's deportation policies. Second, resisting, I guess, like the implementation or execution of a particular law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Yep, they were trying to stop the detention of people that were being taken to this ICE facility to be processed for deportation. They're also protesting against Donald Trump's lawful deportation orders. Third, by way of force or intimidation. Yep, they're shoving law enforcement. They blatantly trespassed, which itself is an act of intimidation, breaking the law in order to get in the face of these people. They used force in the point of putting their hands on people for a public purpose. Absolutely. It's for the public purpose of changing the law and stopping these deportations. That's an insurrection. What you just saw was an insurrection. Was it an assemblage of people united for a common purpose? Yep. Were they resisting the implementation or execution of a particular law? Yep. The deportation laws that Trump's using. Were they interfering with the courts of a government proceeding? Yes. The government's procedure of detaining and then deporting the people. What they did was they waited till the fence opened where a bus that was bringing illegals in for the process of being deported was coming through. Then the gate opened to allow the bus in, and they charged through and trespassed. Did they use force or intimidation? Yep. The mere fact that they broke the law to trespass, was in the face screaming of these ICE officials, and was actually putting their hands on them, shows that they were using both force and intimidation. And was it for a public purpose? Absolutely. They were there for the public purpose of stopping the deportations, protesting against Trump's laws on these deportation, and ICE that's acting them out. That's an insurrection. What you just saw was an insurrection. May 9th, 2025, one of the darkest days in the history of our country, an insurrection, literally engaged with the mayor of Newark, that's a Democrat, at least one Democrat member of Congress, who herself was putting their hands on government officials, law enforcement officials. That's an insurrection. Now, I know what the Democrats are going to say. Come on, Rob, this wasn't a big deal. Oh, no. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment makes no qualification for how serious the insurrection had to be. In fact, if you go back to that very same character, Destiny, that man of integrity, after January 6th first happened, He said clearly this wasn't an insurrection. It was a protest that then some people rioted and it got a little out of control. But they overwhelmed police so much that clearly, if they wanted to do more harm, they would have done so. That was Destiny's take immediately following January 6th, before he realized that he could use it as a political cudgel to demonize his opponents. What was the result of the insurrection of January 6th? Largest task force in FBI history, demonizing Donald Trump and all of his supporters, ruining anyone's lives through insurrection hunters that were looking for people's face, connecting anyone that went there as somehow engaged in some sort of violent terroristic act, even though the vast majority of people didn't even trespass, let alone break the law and use violence or anything of that nature. Censorship of people on social media that wanted to talk about what they saw as problems with the 2020 election. Because now, if you were talking about that, oh boy, rhetoric like that led to an insurrection. And I debated these people over and over. The truth of the claims was irrelevant as to whether or not that rhetoric could incite insurrection. So the people that will say, well, Trump lied about the 2020 election being stolen, but these Democrats are correct about the inhumane position of deporting. How do we know? You might say, yes, but upon further investigation, we saw all sorts of connections and things that were occurring with the January 6th insurrection. For example, we know the Proud Boys were involved, and we know what their communications were. And we know the Oath Keepers were involved, and we know what their communication. And we know what people like Trump were saying in the days before. Right, that's because we did a massive FBI investigation. And we did a massive January 6th committee. No reason to not do that here, correct? No one's above the law, right? That's the standard that was set forth. If any of these people had pens or flags, those are weapons. Those are potential weapons. That was the standard we set on January 6th. Right? Maybe some of them had a pocket knife in their pocket. Oh boy, lethal weapon. That's the standard that was set forth. We must hyperventilate. How about this? What if a law enforcement official that was there today takes their own life months in the future? According to the standard that was set forth, we heard, who was it, Elizabeth Warren saying recently, officers were murdered there. They cite like 5 officers. One of them died of natural causes the next day. They were unable to connect it to the events of January 6th. The rest took their own lives months in the future. But we were told, well, it was because of January 6th. Why shouldn't that same standard be given here? If Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection by just saying, go march peacefully, then surely these Democrats that were on the ground trespassing, using violence and intimidation to engage in an insurrection, surely they engaged in an insurrection. No one is above the law. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is quite simple. If you engaged in an insurrection and you hold office, you're ineligible to continue to hold that office or to run again. If Trump saying fight like hell and talking positively about the people on January 6th meant he was engaging in an insurrection, then wouldn't the Democrats that are out there today saying things like abolish ICE after this insurrection also be engaging in an insurrection, which would mean that they also can't hold public office any further? That's the standard, right? But Rob, what January 6th was the worst thing ever. It was the worst. They almost overthrew our country. They almost overthrew it. Every time I point out they didn't come close to overthrowing our country, every single Democrat I've debated says, oh, so only if it was close to succeeding do we count it as an insurrection? Same thing here. Doesn't matter if it was close to succeeding or not. That doesn't determine whether or not it's an insurrection. You know it's different. You know January 6th was horrific and terrible. These same damn people all summer, while we were locked down because of the pandemic, we had to listen to the experts repeatedly say, but it's okay. You can't get the virus if you're marching for Black Lives Matter. You can't. Trust us. That's okay. The pandemic's bad, but you know what's worse? Racism. It's all mostly peaceful, by the way. Ignore the fire. Ignore the billions of dollars worth of damage. Ignore the people that are dying. Nah, it's mostly peaceful. But January 6th, my God, that's the worst because it was interfering with the government process. Oh, my God. Politicians, Trump was connected to it. Oh, my God. And now when it's Democrats, well, it's different. May 30th, 2021, when 2020, when Democrats attacked the White House, including burning down a makeshift guard station, injuring 50-something law enforcement officials. Nah, that doesn't count. They laughed when Trump had to be moved to a bunker. That doesn't count. Chaz Zone, Black Lives Matter, it doesn't count. January 6th, and I said all summer, when the right finally riots, you people will lose your mind. No, we won't. That's ridiculous. Oh, my God, January 6th, worst thing ever. Okay, we've taken your definition of what an insurrection is. This clearly meets the criteria. Will you hold the same standards? And you know what the answer is. Not one of them will. Oh, yeah, that wasn't great, but, you know, Trump is heinous. He's a tyrant. He's a dictator. It's time to fight back. Well, Trump's bad. He's a dictator. So what we do, it's okay. Right, we know. It's always different. They feel they're morally superior, so their actions are always justified. They don't have to go back and watch the show yesterday. They do not have to live by the standards of which they demand that they enforce upon yourself because they're good people and you're bad people. Trump's a bad guy. They're good guys. And you see, like people in the chat, Rob, you've lost your mind. Well, lucky for you, Kiwi Wayne, tonight's a call-in show, so you'll have the opportunity to call in. So I can't wait to see all the Democrats condemn this insurrection. Can't wait to see it. But I won't hold my breath. All right, let's get to some super chats. Robert Whaley, thanks so much for $5. Says, here's for the grip. Here for the grip. Thank you. I am grifting. Now that this is going to be my full-time job, I'll happily take your money. Thank you. Corey Barton, thanks for the $2. Says, Rob did better than Will debating against Pisco. Thank you. I haven't seen Will, but I do like him. But I haven't seen his debate with Pisco. Metal Minister, $2. Says, evening, Rob. See, Pisco was on Tim Pool again. I knew he was going to be on there. No doubt he's quivering right now and screaming about the Democrat-engaged insurrection. John Rock for $2 says, just got up and started late. Don't worry, your show. Thanks, John. I appreciate it as always. Crimson King for $10 says, you going to keep your name or change it to The Crucible with Rob Noor? No, my channel is still my own completely. I'm more working with The Crucible on their material. My channel is still going to be my own. So I definitely want to keep the brand separated because this show is totally my own thing and it has nothing to do with The Crucible. Now, having said that, I hope that my show is a show that people in the Crucible audience enjoy. I'm happy to collaborate in many ways, but what we're doing is becoming debate powerhouses, debate research, debate preparation, particularly for the debates that Andrew is going to engage in. John Rock again for $2 says, following your X repost, I get a lot of news. Thank you. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Robert Whaley gives 5 memberships. Thank you. We're going to have some news coming up here in the following weeks about members as well. Some new stuff we're doing with members. I can tell you this. The first change is members are going to have access to all of the videos that aren't live streamed that are being put out earlier than everyone else. So that's going to be the first perk of being a member. Jack the Guitar God, thanks so much for $10. Says, congrats, Rob, on your announcement last night. Can't wait to see you kicking some cans. Not one step back. Absolutely. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words, too. Now, I saw Kiwi Wayne had a lot to say about how I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. So no doubt, he's going to jump at the opportunity because I enjoy talking to people that disagree with me. And tonight happens to be Friday, which is normally our call-in show. So I figure, why not do a call-in? Am I right, Kiwi Wayne? Or are you one of those guys that doesn't have access to a computer, or you're actually lifting weights right now so you can type but you can't talk? Is it one of those things? Right? But surely I'm so stupid and brain dead, it'll be easy for you. Anyone else that would like to call in, by all means, we can talk about any topic. It doesn't have to be the topic of this evening that I broached. So anything within reason of terms of service. Now, as always, I ask you to follow terms of service on YouTube or any other platform if you call in. And I have to limit your time based on how many other call-ins there are. If no one else is trying to call in, I could talk to you for a long time. If there's 5 people queued up, well, then probably we have to lower people's time. Also, if it's a massively boring topic for me, I might usher you on. But, you know, that's sort of how it goes. So topics that maybe people would want to talk about is the Democrat-led insurrection here, anything that you've seen in the news, or the future of my channel and the ins and outs of what me working with the Crucible, me streaming full time, anything like that that you'd want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about how the Pirates finally fired their manager, Derek Shelton, and how they're still going to be miserable and they're wasting a generational talent in Paul Skeens. I'm not necessarily the most knowledgeable person when it comes to sports. I went in to get my back doctor today, and they had to do some work on my back, and they were like, hey, can you take that hat off? And I was like, because you're embarrassed and shamed by the team that it represents. And the nurse was like, no, because you got to lay on your face, but also, yes, they're bad. So, all right. Friend of the show calling in first, Miguel Quintana, who I've talked to several. Miguel, always nice to hear from you, man. How you doing today?
Good, and you?
I am doing fantastic. Back's a little sore, but other than that, I'm in a great mood. Really enjoying, I mean, other than the horrible Democrat insurrection that's got me freaked out. But other than that,
Well, speaking of which, I did saw a little research about the insurrection. One of them that participated in the insurrection, I think he's a mayor, and he
Mayor
was
of
trying to
Newark.
run for governor of New Jersey. Well, I can definitely say he sank his own campaign.
Oh, no, it'll be different when Democrats do it. I assure you this was a move that he used in a calculated sense. He thinks that this will increase enthusiasm for voting for him. Now, I do want to say briefly that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment wouldn't apply to him because it only applies to people that have already held office and are running for federal office. So running for governor wouldn't apply. But nonetheless, he engaged in an insurrection, and it should be the end of his campaign. But I have no idea what the people of New Jersey will think about it.
Well, I can definitely say it's been shifting to the right. In fact, it has shifted dramatically to the right with the past election. And even after the 2020 election, New Jersey came pretty close to electing a Republican governor. It was just off by a few points. Same thing with New York, also came pretty close. And mind you, they had New Jersey and New York had pretty much the most embarrassing defeat in 2018's midterms. So Republicans finally got their shit together over there.
So I lowered, I'm not trying to mess with you, but one of the things I'm trying to do, a lot of times they say the caller's louder than me. So I lowered your mic a little, but let me know in the audience if that helped. But yeah, I do know that New Jersey has been shifting further to the right. And so hopefully this will be something that inspires. Look, the Democrats can't help themselves, right? The problem is when you run on perpetual outrage politics and people get tired of it, what do you have to keep running on? And so they run on all these things like, oh my goodness, like go back to the 2016, era with Trump, with kids in cages, kids in cages, kids in cages. And then Democrats get elected and you have 3 times more kids in cages. What's their base to get fired up about then? It's like, oh, you guys didn't care about, none of them cared about January 6th. It was evident because they didn't care about May 30th, 2020. They all made fun of Trump for being a bunker boy, including Joe Biden, because he had to be moved because violent lefties attacked the White House to get to him with lethal weapons, injuring 50-something law enforcement officials. Trump had to be moved by Secret Service, and Joe Biden makes fun of him 2 weeks later for having to be moved to a bunker. None of them cared, not remotely. In fact, Andrew Wilson debated Cenk Uygur on this on Piers Morgan and brought up Cenk's tweets where he was making fun of Trump, calling him bunker boy and things like that. Then
Well,
Cenk's
speaking of
debating
which, I did
Andrew
watch
Wilson.
him a
Real
lot.
quick, real quick. Then Cenk's debating Andrew Wilson about how devastating January 6th is. I'm sorry, sir. If you thought it was a joke when violent lefties attacked the White House, injuring law enforcement in an attempt to get to our duly elected leader and cause harm to him, if that was a joke, then I'm sorry, we're not going to take your criticisms of January 6th seriously.
Well, speaking of which, I do watch a lot of Andrew. I've been watching a lot of Andrew Wilson recently, and it's a great. I guess it's pretty great that you're actually teaming up with him now to actually help. With your situation, and I think it's a great opportunity because Andrew is definitely a force to be reckoned with. It's not someone it's someone you definitely have to be prepared to debate, because if you're not prepared, you're gonna look really stupid. You're probably gonna spurg out. In fact, that's actually what happened last week Friday. I went to my dad's house last week Friday for my stepmom's birthday, and since I wore the dark MAGA hat, since I was a fan of Elon Musk before him joining Trump, and the fact that I was already a fan of Trump already because he's someone who doesn't give a crap about what people say, and the fact that they teamed up together was amazing. But because I wore the hat, my dad spoke out on me, and I was trying to debate him. But of course, I used some of the same tactics that Andrew Wilson had used, and basically kind of shattered my dad's worldview and started speaking out, saying that he blames Donald Trump for everything that's going wrong in his life. Like his stocks went down, some his health insurance is extraordinarily high, the medicines are too high. Like, I understand all that, but just breaking out and outrage festing all the time doesn't work either. And
it's fun. I will say this. My advice to people is there are relationships in your life that sometimes you have to pinch your nose and deal with them. Your father would be one of them. I'm fortunate enough that the people in my immediate family either don't care about politics or they agree largely with me. So I don't have anyone in my immediate family. I do have one aunt who I dearly love, who absolutely despises Donald Trump and has an irrational hatred of him. And what I try to do is, as best as possible, avoid political conversations with her. And I certainly have friends outside the scope of my family that it's the same, I've told stories. It'll be like I go to a wedding and all of a sudden someone approaches me and starts yelling at me about politics because they're aware of my show. And it's like, hey, I'm here for a dear friend's wedding. I'm not trying to ruin their wedding by spurging out against you and having some crazy political debate. I'm just like, yeah, let's talk about something else. So for me, if it was a situation like that with my father, I would try my best to be like, hey, it's not worth all that. Can we talk about something else?
Yeah, I tried
but
that.
It's probably not healthy for his mental health. A lot of these people get so invested in putting so much hatred against someone like Donald Trump that it makes them embittered people. You see it all throughout the mainstream media, the Democrat politicians, and even so many of the Democrats that you see me debating and other people in this debate sphere. They're miserable people. And they just are consumed by this anger and hatred. Simultaneously, I am able to look at the politicians that I dislike and talk about the things that I think are terrible that they're doing. But I have so much going for me in life in the form of, like, I have a family that cares about me. I have a community that I love that cares about me, that I'm helping with. I had a job that I liked, right? So I'm able to separate and not be a miserable person when I go out into my social circles and make everyone else miserable because I got to scream about the things that I don't like about politics or culture.
Yeah. And the thing is that I wasn't even trying to do that, but he basically just like started spoiling out for no reason, because he just sparks out when it comes to the news every time something is mentioned about Trump. Like, that's not healthy at all. And I was trying to calm him down, but of course that didn't work. And it doesn't help by the fact that most of my family, in fact, both sides of my family, either are apolitical. Mostly my mom's side of the family is mostly apolitical, but the ones who are very far leftist. In fact, both sides are heavily Democrat and Catholic as well. In fact, if you don't know, like Puerto Rico, it votes pretty much 60-40 Democrat or so, almost as bad as as the Black Americans vote, almost 80-20 Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's invested in that's invested in politics is going to vote Democrat in my family, and I'm pretty much one of the oddballs of the family who don't vote Democrats.
Let me ask you this: you wore that hat. Did you know it would provoke? Right? Did you know it would upset your dad?
Not really, because I wore it for like all the times I went to his house, he was never provoked. It was just that moment last week that it pretty much like sent him over the edge.
Will you wear that hat again if you go for a family function?
Probably not, because I'm not trying to have that problem again.
Yeah,
because
it's so weird. Like on one hand, right? Like I have this like sort of bipolar way of looking at this. I used to come on here and I would like scream about things in 2020, like the pandemic, the lockdowns, like, and I'm fired up. I'm yelling about it. I'm furious because I see how it is ruining the lives of all of these people I love. Like, not in some abstract sense, like, oh, Joe Biden's, taxation policies or spending policies are going to ruin our lives. That's not really abstract, but that's sort of like a second degree problem. Like, we're literally saying you can't go to work. Your kid can't go to school. You can't go visit your grandma in the nursing home. Like, this is authoritarianism to the max, and it's ruining these people's lives. And I'm furious. And I have all these people, like, as I'm doing these videos, like, well, why are you so mad? And I'm like, why aren't you? That's the problem. The fact that you people aren't furious is why this stuff was allowed to occur in the first place.
I witnessed how bad the COVID pandemic was.
Yeah, simultaneously, though, right, with that, is this sort of idea that I'm not trying to go out of my way to like shoehorn that anger about those situations in personal situations in my life where I know that it's going to upset sort of relationships that matter to me, like my immediate family. And so it is definitely a fine line to walk because it gets tiresome when you're the person, because of the way our culture has been for so long, you're expected to bite your tongue. You can't talk about your political beliefs if you're right wing. You can't talk about your political beliefs if you're MAGA. But the lefties, the anti-Trump people, they'll bring it up right to your face at a wedding, at a ball game, at a family reunion, at Thanksgiving dinner. They'll throw it in their face like, well, we're just entitled to do this because we're morally superior to you. And so it gets frustrating. I get the feeling of being like, look, if you're going to do it to me, I'm going to do it to you. But still, I say, particularly with a relationship like your father, like I wouldn't intentionally provoke it. If it's a situation where he's constantly on you and you're not doing anything to provoke it, that's different. But of course, every situation is different. Personally, for me, if that was my father, I would do everything in my possibility to sort of not talk about politics and focus on the connections that we had, because I wouldn't want to lose that important relationship of a father-son relationship. But
yeah, and the thing is that I have friends who are very left-leaning who have debated, but we always end up finding a middle ground. And even though we disagree, we still find some sort of commonality with each other. In fact, I like to debate these left-wingers sometimes, especially my friends, because it helps sharpen my worldviews. Like, it helps challenge me, because sometimes I may be missing something and I have to like work on it. But the fact that my dad decided to go on that route, like, yeah, I can see why people like Andrew Wilson always gets this types of people spreading out towards him, because I don't have to say much. I don't have to be loud or say something provocative or offensive to have them to spread out or whatever. And that's just insane. But then again, it's not surprising, given that Democrats have been so outraged to the point that they're literally burning their brains being outraged all the time. Like you see, like you mentioned, from 2016 to all right now, they still going by the same playbook over and over and over again. And like they find something else to be outraged about, like Abrego Garcia, like Mahmoud Khalil, or like the new detention facility that they found in New Jersey that they decided to pretty much cause havoc towards. They find something to be outraged about. And I mean, and it's never an ending sight. And people are just gonna get tuned out from that. In fact, a lot of people I know are tuned out from that because it just feels like
I totally agree. And so, on one hand, I'm proud of you when someone's spurging out against you to just be like, hey man, like, I don't need to listen to this. But on the other hand, I do feel honestly terrible that it's come to that in a relationship between a father and son. So I wish you the best. Thank you so much again for calling in. I got some other people on the line, but going to try to be doing a call-in show like every Friday. So I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll get to the next caller. So go ahead.
Well, for people reference, just look for me on Twitter called Mikey the Fourth WX, and I already followed you already on Twitter. But I do posting on weather and on politics, And of course, I've already been blocked and blacklisted by some of the other community already because they are very far leftists and they pretty much have blacklisted me because I called them out for their bullshit.
That's interesting. But yeah, thanks so much, man. I'll be doing call-in shows probably most Fridays, so hopefully we'll hear from you again. And thanks for calling in so many times. I really do appreciate it, man. And good
No
luck. Good
problem.
luck with your relationship with your dad. I know it sucks to sometimes have to like bite your tongue, but maybe it's worth it to salvage a relationship with your dad. So thanks so much, man.
Yeah, it's not gonna break up anytime soon, so we're good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, man. All right, take it easy.
All right.
We'll see you. All right. Oh, what's up, my friend Jake? Yeah, I got you in fast. Bam.
Yeah, dude, you did.
Wait until you're taking a drag of your cigarette and just bring you on Mig drag. But hey, what's up, man? It's great to hear from you. What's happening?
Dude, it's great to see you again after our last stream when we had like fucking 8-hour stream with you and me and Fatty and everything.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Yeah.
Very good stuff. By the way, your last caller, really good advice of giving him about his father. I actually have a aunt that for some reason she messages me on Facebook. I'd never reply to her. Videos of anti-Trump shorts that she sees on Facebook. And I don't reply to the woman till this last time she's like, oh, Trump, he had posted himself as the Pope and that's disgusting, blah, blah, blah. So it's just, I get it. I totally get it. The best thing is just to not even engage with that type of stuff.
It's tough. So I used to, when I was starting off streaming, I maybe had 12 people watching live if I was lucky. And the big audience that I had of that many people watching was this website I was on, Above Top Secret. So there's like 3 or 4 people from Above Top Secret that saw me post on there a lot. And then I'd be like, hey, I'm going live. So a couple people from there would come over. And then the other was people that personally know me in real life. So it'd be like, and I would post on Facebook like, hey, I'm streaming live. So it might be like a couple people I worked with or whatever. I had to stop posting to Facebook because I had so many people that like were relationships that I valued, whether it be like friends, coworkers, or family, that it was like all of a sudden, these people have no chill. They're like coming at me knives out. Then all of a sudden you're sitting at work and like your boss is like, I saw what you put on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And so I was just like, I just stopped posting to Facebook. At first I was like, well, I'll just post like cool dog pictures and like, hey, I went to the Pirate game. And after a while I was like, nope, so I haven't posted on Facebook for years other than like maybe a happy birthday message.
Sure. And it's funny, Rob, because you're kind of like in a swing state, right? You're over there in Philadelphia. Yeah.
So I'm towards Pittsburgh, but yeah.
Towards Pittsburgh. Okay, yeah. Well, that explains the pirate hat.
Yeah, the Yinzer accent, yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny because I'm in Texas. So I'm in South Texas. So we're Hispanic, but the majority, I think after the whole Trump election stuff, they've kind of opened up with Trump. So we can openly talk about Trump, etc. And it's just not a big deal. So I don't get a whole lot of pushback. But since I've been on the internet, I've gotten some people that find me on Facebook or Instagram that personally message me and have a problem with that stuff. So I don't have too much an issue, but you're right. I don't really post too much on Facebook anymore because it is personal. That's for sure.
Well, and it is a fine line. Like I was telling Miguel there, where it's like I've gone, people that I consider good friends of mine.
Yeah.
I've gone to like a wedding and they just like, what about what Trump did? And it's always up to me to be the bigger person. I'll be like, yeah, he could be an idiot sometimes. Anyways, how's your mom doing? She doing all right, man?
Yeah.
Tell her I said hi. Right. I'm always the person that has to be like, yeah, you're kind of right. Anyways, it's never the opposite way. It's not like I'm going like, oh, how's that human vegetable you voted for, Biden? How's that situation in Russia, Ukraine? Right. Real great. Right?
Yeah.
Inflation's going good. Thanks a lot, dude. Like, I'm never saying that to people in these. Now, I would say it if they called in to debate me. I might say it if it's me and them sitting at a bar, but I'm not going to like a funeral, a wedding, or, someone's birthday party and doing this stuff. There are social obligations that people, by the way, it's one of the big differences, I think, with people that lean conservative versus lean left wing, which is like, we understand that there's this social contract and there's this way to behave and you don't make a fool of yourself and you do have some decorum. And they feel, well, we're better than you. You're subhuman. We're morally superior. So we can act a fool. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you could see video after video of that playing out online at any given time.
Oh, big time. And by the way, I've already lost an aunt that doesn't talk to me anymore, that she's over there in Houston, Texas. So she hasn't spoken to me anymore. The other one, she still talks to me. It's fine. She's just mijo. She tells me mijo, like Trump is bad and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm not interested in losing another aunt at this point. So
Yeah,
I've kind of learned my lesson.
It is tough. So I feel for Miguel. I hope it works.
Yeah.
And I certainly, look, don't get me wrong. I have on my dad's side, I have 8 aunts and 1 uncle, though some of my aunts have passed away. So I guess on one hand, it's like, well, if you lose 1 or 2, but it's like a parent's a different thing altogether.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. Big time.
Now, I think, yes, there are things that your parents could do that would make you cut out them from your life, obviously, but I don't think a political disagreement should be one of them. So for me, if it was me, I would do my best. Though if his dad called in, I would say the same thing, like, hey man, that's your son. You can't just bite your tongue, complain to your wife after he leaves, like, what the hell is that little shit doing? But
and by the way, I'm blessed that my parents are Republicans. They raised me as that way, so I'm good with my parents. But outside of that, I got some family members that are like that, etc. But Rob, I also wanted to bring this up. I don't know if you've seen, but I did go out to Detroit, Michigan to debate Destiny.
Oh, I didn't. I forgot you were doing that. How'd that go?
Okay, well, it was okay. So it was really fun. Surprisingly, he brought in an audience of like 200 people in the audience. It was quite a bit packed. It was like a university over there in Detroit, and a lot of young people, college kids. And so the whole gimmick was 8 Trump supporters back to back versus Destiny, right? Okay. I was the second one up. Now, the promoter actually ended up paying for my plane ticket over there. So that was cool of him. So I was the second debater, got up in there, and me and Destiny, the premise of where I was bringing up was about violence on the left versus violence on the right, and that a lot of the violence kind of led into the Trump election, right? Him winning this past elections. That I think a lot of people are tired of the violent rhetoric that the left shoots out, including Destiny, who said he's totally okay with the bullet hitting Donald Trump, right? His head, etc.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I think I even name dropped you kind of by accident because I was trying to think of who he argued with that. I said, I think you had that with Rob Noor, and he was just like, okay. But
he said well, ChatGPT now.
Yeah, he didn't bring that up, bro. He didn't bring that up. But it was a fun exchange. It was great because the promoter let me go for about 15 minutes with him. And I'll tell you this, all the other Trump debaters on that fucking stream, they were all liberals, bro. They weren't even real Trumpers. They were fucking libtards that were just agreeing with him.
Space. Dude, I can't tell you, when I first started doing like the panels, this is no joke. I remember doing a hippy dippy. Dylan Burns used to do this panel called the hippy dippy. I remember doing a hippy dippy panel, and it was 4 right wingers versus 4 left wingers. And the topic, there was maybe 2 or 3 topics, but one of the topics was, who you voting for, Biden or Trump? 2020, right? And so the lefties go Biden, 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 Biden. Okay.
Of course.
The righties say Biden, Biden, I'm not voting, and then me.
Trump.
And it's like, that's how all those panels were. It's like,
dude,
oh, we're going to put Rob and Connor points on a panel with, and then it's like, Connor's like, well, I hate Trump too. And yeah, I'd prefer the Democrats. And so it's constantly like all of these right wingers that now, can you be right wing and dislike Trump or conservative? Of course you can. Like, and there are things I dislike about Trump, so I totally get that. But it's never that. It's always these people, and particularly when you're interacting with people like Destiny, because what happens is everybody's trying to like get a little of that rub off them, like, oh, well, hey, your audience will like me. I'm one of the cool right wingers who also hates Trump, who's also liberal. Screw that, man. Shit or get off the pot. If that's how you feel, sit down and let someone that could argue. So either get these morons that just make you look bad, or you get these people that aren't really right wingers or Trump supporters. Anyways, dude. And it just, all it does is eat up the time and perceptually look how weak their side is. There was only one guy who was foolish enough. Yeah, I'll check that out. I really will. I'm interested to see it, but I feel you, man. I've lived.
Yeah. It was just hard, but it's funny because after I got off the stage, I went back into the audience. And a lot of the audience members were like, hey, man, that was a good exchange. All of the liberals were like, that was the best exchange right there. Because the rest of them were a bunch of fucking agreeing cocksuckers towards Destiny, bro. It was embarrassing. But I went out for a smoke, of course. And I had multiple people, a couple people there, like 3 or 4 of them were like, hey, man, that was a good exchange. I am a liberal. I do support Destiny, but I understand your point of view of what you were bringing up there. And I had some really good conversations with these libtards. In fact, one of them actually drove me back to my hotel afterwards. He's like, hey, dude, I'll give you a ride. Don't agree with you, but I'll take you over there to the hotel.
Did he make a pass at you? No, I'm just
No, he didn't. He did not. But he seemed like a good college kid, and so he did that for me. So it was fun. I think my interaction was the best one. Obviously, Destiny posted it on his end. I was the first debater. I think he put 3 of them. I was the first one in a 40-minute video. And of course, the comment section was just all about this guy in the jacket is a moron. I mean, it was bad. I had some friends that were in the live chat that were saying like, dude, the chat was roasting the shit out of you. That one person said that because my hand was in my jacket, that I had a firearm in there. And it was just like, what? Dude, it was insane, dude.
Yeah,
but it was fun. Yeah.
That's the way it is. Then listen, the truth is, like, to Destiny's defense, right? Like, you can't control what your audience says.
Of course.
Everyone, like, if I debate you, right, I could, after the cameras set down, be like, man, you crushed me. And 80% of my audience would be like, Rob devastated him.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, people are going to cheer for the person that they're familiar with most of the time. But I actually found a lot of success with debating Destiny, where a lot of people came from his channel that were like, hey, I actually found you to be quite reasonable.
Really?
Even though I disagree with you, I thought you made good points. And I think that that's important, because oftentimes there's a caricature of like, we're just these evil, you know, people that it comes across on the left, and it's just not true. You might disagree with us, but I don't think that either of us are evil, racist, bigoted people, anything like that. Now, having said that, once the vast bulk of Destiny's audience, what happens is once, and I think it's worse with his audience than others, which is once they like have an excuse to hate you, even if it's something irrational, then they're going to go full bore with it. So if it's you, well, you used AI that one time, or if it's you said that you had a PhD in something, but it, you know, it turns out that that was slightly like, all of a sudden that will be the excuse that's used over and over again. And oftentimes that's used to shirk the fact that maybe Destiny didn't do so hot, and his audience has to make some sort of cope to do that. So, I linked, I think on your channel, you have that up. While you were talking, I checked.
Yes.
And that's the Destiny versus some nobody.
Yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, so I linked it in the chat. So if you don't mind, I'll probably sometime next week go over that.
Dude, interesting to see. That would be great. That would be great, man. And like I said, honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say that I destroyed Destiny. Destiny is easily the stronger debater. There's just no question of that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I destroyed him. However, I feel like I didn't get absolutely demolished by the guy, especially because I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I don't have the same experience as you, Rob. You've debated like hundreds, thousands of people, I'm sure. I think I have maybe 6 or 7 organized debates under my belt at this point, right? But I don't feel like I got absolutely demolished by the guy. But I will say he got me on certain things to where I stuttered, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But I really enjoyed it. I felt like this kind of helped me out because I went up against Destiny. That guy's probably one of the best debaters on the left, right?
Sure.
As far as rhetoric, and I can understand that. But I didn't feel like I left out of there completely demolished. So I want to do it again. I did tell Destiny, by the way, before I left the stage that, hey, man, I would love to get you on the show. And he's like, well, just message me. And I was like, okay, cool. And I thought about this, Rob. I know you're on the blacklist, but I kind of wanted to do the same thing that I did with you, but with Destiny, to where like, hey, can you have an hour conversation with me? And then I'm going to bring in a debater and maybe ask him if I can bring in Rob Noor.
I would do it, but you would have to. What I would ask you is to be honest that you were bringing me in, because I know he said he doesn't want to debate me. So it would look really bad from you, particularly if someone found this video and was like, that dude knew Destiny didn't want to debate Rob. But if he was cool with it, I would be fine. Absolutely, no problem.
So that's something. So that's an idea that I'll probably shoot out to him to see if he might be interested. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm a small channel, so he's not going to get too much out of it. So maybe I can make it worth his while if I bring in somebody like a Rob Noor. If he says no, maybe I'll be like, well, maybe an Andrew Wilson or a Jake Rattlesnake. I have some people under my belt that I've spoken to already that probably will do it for me, right? So I will start off with you, and if he says no, then I'll ask for Jake.
Yeah, and let me say this as well, like, to defend Destiny a little. No one on this space owes me anything, right? Like, I think that this sort of mentality, like, well, you have to debate this person. No, you don't. He could be like, I don't want to debate Destiny because he's a fat, or I don't want to debate Rob because he's a fat sack of shit. He has the right to say that.
It's all
like,
good.
I have the right to be like, dude, you're running for me. But I do think that sometimes people are like, because I have people, I had this one dude, I'm not going to mention his name, but this dude that I debated like 5-6 times. And I'm sorry to say he's just not very intelligent, was like a broken record. And so I was like, hey, man, I'm just done debating you. And he like would make account after account complaining like, why won't Rob debate this guy? It's outrageous. Like he, you know, and it's like, no. So if Destiny doesn't want to debate me, I don't have any hard feelings about it. You know, but I would be more than happy anytime he wants. I need zero prep. If it's fact, especially now that I'll be streaming full time. If you reach out to me and say, what are you doing in 15 minutes? You want to come on and debate Destiny in this topic? Yeah, sign it up.
Well, I'm not going to do that, but
well, he can pick the topic. I don't give a shit. It don't matter to me. That's what happened last time. The whole 5.5 hour debate.
Yeah.
We had to talk about this, so I don't give a shit. You know, it's fine by me. So, but yeah, I would absolutely do it. And particularly, I think it'd be great to do it in your channel because I think that one of the things that I think you set yourself apart from so many other people is you could talk to someone and have a fair debate, moderation, even if you agree with one side over the other. So many people, that's difficult to do. And so I think if you could put on a good performance as a moderator in that debate, I think that speaks highly enough that people then begin to trust you and say, yeah, I'll come on and debate whoever, because I know that you're not going to put your thumb on the scale. So I would be happy to do it. I absolutely would.
Of course. And I learned that a lot from even being in this space, especially when it comes to right wingers. They're really good at that. So I don't want to be the guy that's biased in a moderation or anything of that nature.
Yep.
100%. But yeah, Rob, I definitely will do that. It's funny. Just a quick story for your audience, by the way. After the debate was over and everybody was, the event was done, there was a line to, shake Destiny's hand, take a picture with the guy, and he'll give you an autograph on his, like a poster of the event. And so I found myself in line because I was talking to some other people that were asking me questions, and they seemed pretty nice and genuine about their questions. Why am I a MAGA supporter? When did I start supporting Trump? They were asking really good questions. So I was there in the line, and I was like, okay, I'll be in the line. It got to me, and so I went on stage to take a picture with Destiny, shake his hand, right? I go over to Destiny. I'm like, hey, man, really good debate, man. And I reach out to shake his hand. He looks at my hand, goes back to his signing the paper. He's like, yeah, good chat. And I was like, okay. And then I took a picture with him, and then I left, right? Well, the guys behind me, the ones that I was having a conversation with, including my manager, OJ, was with me. He also did the same thing, took a picture with Destiny, got an autograph, whatever. We didn't actually give a shit, but we were in line. And they come by, and I'm like, hey, did Destiny shake y'all's hand? They're like, yeah, he shook our hands. He was really nice. Everything. He shook our hands. I was like, dude, he totally snuffed me from the handshake. And they're like, and one guy was like, yeah, Destiny doesn't shake certain Republicans' hands.
Yeah.
Like, all right, dude.
Well, hey, I
just thought that was funny.
I know. It's like, I don't know. Like for me, I try to be cordial even to the people I disagree with, but I guess to each their own. I mean, he is someone who says you're effing around. I mean, that's like, I remember when I talked to you and you said you were going to do that. I was like, maybe one of the questions you asked is like, hey, if one of your supporters opened fire on me right now, was I effing around and finding out?
I wish I could have remembered that.
Isn't that what you think of us?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you think of us. So I'm not surprised someone that would, mock the death of Corey Competor, the innocent firefighter who was shot, would be unwilling to shake someone's hand that disagreed with them. That does not surprise me, but
for sure,
unfortunate. But hey, I'm going to let you go. I put the link out to your channel and the link to that particular video.
Appreciate you, bro.
Hopefully we can talk soon. Like I said, I should be streaming much more now, more full-time. So I'd love to do some more collaboration stuff. I think it'd be great. Right on, Rob. Thanks so much, man. I'll catch you later. Take it easy, man. Yep. Let's get to a couple super chats before we get to the next caller. Let's make sure. Tainted Holy for $5. Thanks so much. Says, will you be doing culture topics now that you're collaborating with the Crucible topics? Again, the collaboration with the Crucible isn't necessarily about my channel. So it's more about helping debate prep research for Andrew and for people on the Crucible. My channel is going to be my own independent thing. So it's not as if like, oh, I'll be streaming to the Crucible's channel. It's not really of that nature. Will I be doing more cultural topics? One, maybe, because hopefully there will be more people from the Crucible audience that will be watching me. But second, the answer is more importantly than that, Probably because I will be streaming more often. And so oftentimes the political topics, if you're doing a 2-hour or longer show 5 days a week, how much do the stories change day to day? You're talking about tariffs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe it behooves me and be better for the audience to switch up and talk about a different type of topic come Thursday or Friday. So I would say with coming with more time to stream will be a more diverse range of topics. So I hope that answers your question. Cody H, Drunken Wizard for $10 says, not a fan of Andrew's debate style, but I'll happily follow you anywhere. Excited for the potential of the arena coming back. I love that Teddy Roosevelt quote. Thank you. That quote's down there. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I think I've said this for a long time. Different personalities, different areas of expertise, different styles of topics that people talk about, the way they stream, they debate. Some people in Andrew's audience may hate me. Some people in my audience may hate Andrew. Grid Motorsports is in the background there. Everybody loves Grid, but that's it. Everyone else, it's so, yeah. And I think what's great about Andrew and like our understanding is we were perfectly fine with that. That's completely acceptable. We totally understand that. So I don't think that I will markedly change. In fact, I think quite to the opposite. I think that Andrew doesn't want yes men or people that just agree with him. That's the team he's built at the Crucible. So I don't think that I'm under any pressure to change what my belief is on certain topics, or how I debate and stylistically what I do debate. There's no pressure to change any of that whatsoever. But yeah, I totally understand. Max Reddick says, Rob, where's the link so I can hop on? I will put that link up again. I think you've already hopped on, but let's do that. There you go. And remember, if you send a super chat in, I will get to all of them, but I'm trying to do them in a smarter way now instead of getting to them as they come in, waiting till there's sort of a break in the topic. So in this case, after we get done with one caller. So, and lastly, Ear Class, thanks so much for the $10. Oh, Lower Class, I got it. Says, Rob, big congrats on the new gig with the Crucible. I'm really excited to see where you go with this. Thank you so much. It really means a lot, and I'm humbled by all the kind words that people have had. It really does mean a lot to me, so thank you. And as always, I will remind you, something I don't normally do when I stream, because this was a hobby of mine and was not my full-time job. Now I am doing this as a job. So please send me your monies. If you prefer to send me on a way that is not YouTube, because YouTube are dirty, dirty corporatist pigs that take 30% of the money, then you could send on PayPal, to which my PayPal account is just at Robert Knorr, as you see in the chat there. So thanks so much for all your support. All right. We're going in order that they came in. Next up, Alley Cat, what's happening, my friend?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, congrats on the new upgrade. It sounds awesome. It sounds like it's a great match made in heaven.
I think so too. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Okay, so I was just gonna rapid fire some news topics that are you're sitting there talking about some things in the news, kind of fun. The first off is a little bit kind of drama. Tim Pool had a new format today where basically it was a live format debate where he actually participated and had somebody else host, and his big guest there was Pisco.
Now, if I could correct you, first off, there's a little bit of an echo, so it might be you need to turn your volume down on the computer.
That's fine.
I'll correct one little thing. I knew this was coming because I saw Pisco's X feed. I don't believe it was live. I think this was recorded last week, but it was uploaded today. But yeah, other than that, I saw that it was Will Chamberlain, I believe, Tim Pool, Pisco, and I think that Alex Stein moderated it. I didn't see it, but I think that was the scheduled event that was going on.
Yeah, I believe it was Alex Stein moderating.
Yeah.
The interesting part, it was basically dealing with Garcia, and Pisco was advocating that they should bring Garcia back to hold him for a criminal trial. That was his big push. And what I found was interesting, and maybe why I'm bringing it up here, is he actually used I had the guy's name. It was the Trump subpoena, the thing that you always push him on all the time, where it was Carter Page.
Oh, okay.
They used Carter Page. And he used that as an example of, well, see, we made sure Carter Page got his justice, so why can't we do that with the immigrant? And so I just thought that was hilarious how he's like now, now all of a sudden, oh, Carter Page is a hero and the FBI did wrong for him to prove another
He just, at the time when that was going on, he, like almost every other Democrat, defended it or claimed ignorance of it. Then once it no longer could harm them politically, they said, sure, what happened to him was wrong. The words that he used to me was, it was regrettable.
Yeah.
That's the words he used. And now he's like, oh, see, I said that was regrettable. So that proves I'm not a hack. So therefore, Garcia should come back and he should never be allowed to be deported to El Salvador again, because even if you could prove in this trial that he would want him to have that the Barrios 10 gang or whatever the name of that gang is doesn't exist anymore, is no longer a threat to him, well, now he has other claims because now it's political. And so Bukele might do something horrible to him in prison in El Salvador. So now he can't go to El Salvador for that. And of course, you can't send him anywhere else. You can't send him to Guatemala or some other country because that would be inhumane because he's not from those countries. So I guess the only choice is to leave him here in the United States. Right. Now let's do the other 12 million people. And wouldn't you know, almost every one of them, he'll have the exact same story for. That's the truth. But they'll find any excuse.
Tim Pool's counter argument was more of like the end result will probably be that he'll get evicted anyway. So why even bother with a trial at this point if it's going to end up being the same result? Not quite sure was the strongest thing, but it was an interesting point.
Well, it does. I mean, the counter argument to Tim's position is going to be, but it doesn't matter. The law matters, right? And so I know what Pisco would say with that. He's going to say that doesn't matter. The outcome is irrelevant to the process. If you say, well, we're pretty sure what the outcome would be, so we could ignore the process and be unlawful, then that defeats the rule of law in the first place. So we must uphold the rule of law. Now, the problem is, right, there's a bunch of interesting terminology that comes in with, like, what did the Supreme Court mean when they said that Trump had to facilitate the return of Garcia? Because facilitate's not the same as effectuate, which is what the original language was. Facilitate, if I facilitate your travel to my state, I can provide you with a bus ticket. That's facilitating the travel. If I effectuate it, that means I have to get you here, right? Do you understand the difference? So, for example, if Garcia's in prison in El Salvador, though I'm not so sure he is, but he's in El Salvador, and Bukele, the president of El Salvador, says, no, we're not letting him go. We're a sovereign nation. You can't force me to release this guy. Well, then what is the recourse? What is the DOJ or what is the Trump administration supposed to do? Do we go to war? Do we sanction? Right?
Well,
or do we just
totally
say, well,
waved away.
or do you say, well, if you do choose to release him, we'll provide airfare back? Yeah. And that's sort of, now, to be honest, is that what Trump's team's doing? I don't know. Probably not. They're probably more than happy to be like, hey, Bukele, it's up to you. And Bukele's like, yeah, but we're not going to do anything. And they're like, okay. So what Pisco and what the judges and the Democrats want is, well, we want Trump to pressure Bukele. We want Trump to ask publicly, please give him back. And the question becomes, but do these courts have the right or the power to force a president to engage in diplomacy? Do they have that right? And the answer is probably no. No one disagrees, though. And no one disagrees that even the Trump administration admitted, yeah, we screwed up. This was an accident. He shouldn't have been deported to El Salvador at that time. He had a removal status, so he was ready to be removed. It was just a withholding from El Salvador. So they could have done some sort of due process to say, okay, that withholding is revoked or something like that. But what Pisco and that all these people want to make hay about is, but wasn't that bad? Wasn't that illegal? Well, yeah, the Trump teams admitted that. But that would be the equivalent if we find like anything that occurred during the Biden administration from like the Biden FBI, the Biden Department of Justice, etc. Mistakes do happen. And if we said, but wasn't that illegal? Look what happened. The problem is now, what is the legal standard now that the mistake was made? And and that's sort of where the rub is. And the question of, should a federal judge, a district circuit judge, be able to force the president of the United States to basically force a foreign leader to give back a citizen of that country?
They covered that. Even Pisco disagreed. Like, he basically said that's a violation between the second and the third articles of the Constitution. Basically, that the president has jurisdiction over foreign affairs, and the courts cannot press him to do so.
I would assume Will Chamberlain would have been up on that argument. I don't know that.
Pisco actually agreed with it too.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, then it's like, well, what happens? And it's just it's one of those things that they're always going to find something to complain about. And when I talked to Pisco about this, he even admitted, even if they bring him back, even if they held a court hearing like digitally, where he was allowed, you send his lawyers to El Salvador, they're allowed to prepare him. He's allowed to, video in for the hearing, and the hearing ruled like, okay, you're no longer at threat from this Barrios gang, so now you could be in El Salvador. No one's going to be satisfied with that. They'll say, but now he would like to file another motion for why it's dangerous to be in El Salvador. And what Pisco said was there were two reasons, both of which defaulted to one, which was like, well, Trump's made it political. And so now everybody knows who this Garcia guy is. So now he'll be in jeopardy in El Salvador. And I was like, but wouldn't that argument be the same anywhere? Like if you send him to Sweden, theoretically, it's still political. Everyone will know who he is. So it's just, it will never be enough. It will always be the only remedy that they'll be happy with is this person be allowed to remain in the United States. And oh, by the way, the same with almost all the other millions.
Right.
That's the truth. That's what they really believe.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the actual news part. The first one's pretty simple, like with the new Pope. And I find that great. I'm a Chicagoan, so I was actually pretty happy to hear this one. And so that was fun. But what I also found interesting is the less reaction. And basically the reaction is because the Pope at one time said something bad about Trump and JD Vance, he's our guy. Yep. And my attitude is say, like, you even care about the Catholic Church, let alone religion itself. You know what I mean?
Well, they care to the extent, again, right? I'm not going to say that there aren't people that like Trump that are cultish in behavior. That's certainly true. If you like any politician to the point where you will refuse to ever criticize them, even if they switch their position completely from one day to the next, that's probably an unhealthy view that you have. Like, if you're a real free thinker, there should be no one in the world that you 100% agree with. And so you should always have at least slight disagreements. And it's one of the things that there are people, and I don't think it's as many as people think, but there are people in Trump's orbit that would they'll never criticize him. And I think that's a huge mistake, not for the least of which reason is that Trump's actually willing to listen to people because he's not an ideologue. So actually, if he does something you don't like and a bunch of his supporters push him on it, like with bump stocks, he'll change his mind, which is good. So you never want to just be a yes man and just agree with everything he says. But what's worse is people that hate Trump no matter what. And that's what I say. So many of these people I debate, it's not this that like their entire political view is I hate Trump, Trump evil, Trump bad. That's it. And so therefore, someone that they could be like, Dick Cheney is the worst dude in the world. He's a war criminal. He needs to be on trial in The Hague. As soon as Dick Cheney comes out and it's like, I don't like Trump, they're like, yes, what a great man. We knew it. We always knew this was a great patriot. And they'll use anyone like that. If they think that anyone is anti-Trump, it doesn't matter. Like Richard Spencer could come out and be like, I hate Trump. They're like, not a bad dude. Richard Spencer, decent dude. It does not matter. That's how they look at things. Their entire political view is Trump bad. And if that means they have to scorch Democrat politicians, yeah, whatever. You could take down 50 of our politicians. We don't care. Just take down Trump, no matter what. That's the only thing that matters. So, of course, so many Democrats are going to be like, oh, what's that? There was a tweet where he was critical of Trump's immigration policies. Yes, he's our guy. Now, who knows? I've heard people that I trust say it's a little more complicated than that. He's probably going to be like pro open borders and think, but he also seems to be pro-life. I guess we'll see. I guess his actions will speak louder than words. I don't mind anyone looking at his past tweets. I would love to see a Twitter battle between the Pope and the President of the United States. I think that would be phenomenal. So hopefully we get a nice back and forth childish Twitter exchange filled with AI memes and all sorts of stuff. I think that'd be great. That'd be the best timeline. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like all of a sudden he's the Democrats guy because, he criticized JD Vance in one of his tweets.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing, and I'll just leave this for you to be open-ended if you want to talk about it, is that a big, to me, this comes as not like a huge surprise, but interesting, is the whole Indo-Pakistan war, like how that's starting to heat up now.
Yeah, I mean, so Indo-Pakistan, when I joined the debate team in 2002, I remember I didn't know anything about any politics whatsoever, just the bare minimum. And I remember the first year that I debated, the topic was about signing various treaties, etc. And one of the treaties was called the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and it had to do with a treaty to stop testing of nuclear weapons to stop proliferation. And I remember my debate coach, we were talking about all these scenarios for nuclear war, and I remember him telling me, like, way back in 2003, I guess was the first year I started debating, he was like, the most likely scenario for nuclear war in the world is India-Pakistan, because they hate each other. There's like deep ethnic hatred. And the leaders of the country, particularly Musharraf in Pakistan, was pretty unstable, and they're both nuclear superpowers. And so there was a lot of talk back then of this fear of this being a potential hotspot. And of course, if there's a nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan, it's probably likely that not only would that have devastating effects for the surrounding region, but it would probably bring other powers in, which could literally be the beginning of World War III and potentially a nuclear holocaust. So I can't claim that I've researched to know exactly what the ins and outs are that lead to this conflict. I will default to the position I always have, which is the United States should adopt a position of trying to broker a peace deal instead of financing one side or the other and exacerbating the situation by putting our thumbs on the scale. So I hope that's what occurs. As someone who is my family first and foremost, my country, obviously, I don't want to see people die in wars anywhere across the world. So I hope cooler heads prevail, but I can't speak highly on the specifics of this scenario until I do more research on it. But Alley Cat, thank you so much, man. Always great to hear from you. Appreciate it. Good stuff. Got to start moving a little quicker because we actually have a lot of people calling in. Remember, get those super chats in so that my fat ass can continue to eat meals. I'll very much appreciate it. Next, we have Canisius, thank you so much. It's great to hear from you. I know you'd been mentioning calling in, so it's great to hear from you here today.
Hey, Rob. Do you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Sorry about the dog.
That's right.
It was funny you mentioned the hippy dippy because I think that's the first time I heard you. I don't know if you were in the show with CTV, but I remember you and CTV were, dude, I haven't heard that guy in a minute, but he was so funny.
Oh, CTV! I'm just saying we need to legalize marijuana. I like CTV. He's a good dude, man. I know he left streaming for a while and then came back. He would pop up in my chat here and there. I wish nothing but the best for him. I think he's one of the most likable guys. And I think, unfortunately, he attached his wagon to sort of Dylan Burns' audience, and he was like the likable right-winger. And I think they kind of spurned him because turns out if you say anything afoul of their little sort of cult, then all of a sudden they'll turn on you in a moment's notice. So I always wish the best for him. I think about him once in a while. I hope he's doing well. But yeah, I haven't heard from him for a while.
Yeah, he was. He was kind of an agent of chaos, which was always fun. But
he is.
So I guess one thing I've been thinking about recently is there's been all these headlines about the Albertan secession. I don't know if you've seen anything about that, but
yes,
it's kind of interesting because, like, I'm gonna be honest. As an American patriot, I don't really want Canada to be the 51st state because there's a whole lot of anti-American leftists up there. But it is interesting to think about, though, because, like, if Alberta does succeed and they want to join us, which would be kind of two big ifs, right? If they did, there's a good chance that, like, Canada may fracture into pieces. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what kind of effect that would have on the Liberals here, right? Because if you start adding in, like, I'm big into history, right? And the last time we started really adding in states was, like, right before the Civil War. And if you add in Alberta, which is definitely going to be a GOP state, well, then what next? Do we add Puerto Rico? Then do we add D.C.? Then do we add somewhere that's more conservative? Like, do we split Alaska into two states and have two Republican states? Or, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, first off, I would say there's a very little chance of Alberta succeeding. I don't think that that'll occur, but let's under the framework that it would. If we adopt under that framework, I think you're right that the entire reason for that secession to happen would be because Alberta is more conservative and would be sort of disenfranchised with the left leanings of the Liberals in charge, or I guess maybe it's backwards in Canada. Anyways, the lefties that are in charge in Canada. So what would happen would be, I think that the situation would be different than Puerto Rico for this, at least at the beginning of it, because Alberta would have a bargaining chip, which is the resources, the land, everything that we have here to become part of the United States. That's going to be massively beneficial to you, the United States, to have control over. And so one of the preconditions of that would be that we would be given equal statehood. I think that would clearly be one of their demands. They would not join on as a territory that didn't have the right to vote. I don't think that that would be possible. So would that then lead to places like Puerto Rico saying, well, we want statehood? Maybe they would say that, but they don't have that bargaining chip. They're already a territory of the United States. So that ship has came and gone. Now, the Democrats would certainly push for that because they would look at this as, oh, most likely conservatives would get 2 new Senate seats and, we'll get more congressional.
That it's a slave versus free state. We have to keep everything 50-50 and pretend that, we can just kind of balance the power.
Yeah, so that's no doubt what they would say. And then you would probably see a mad rush for, when Democrats get in control, that they would want to be adding places that they see as liberal, like Puerto Rico, other places for statehood. DC, they would push for DC statehood because they know that these would be liberal strongholds, and you would have this sort of tit for tat. Would it be a worthwhile trade if you added DC as a left-wing place and Alberta as theoretically a right-wing place? Well, DC is far more left-wing than Alberta is right-wing. But the resources, wealth, material, etc. of Alberta, certainly to bring it into the country, would be beneficial to the country as a whole. Then what would happen with the rest of Canada? Well, I think that you would likely see, I can't speak to know exactly about all the sort of ins and outs of Canadian politics. Most of Canada, though, I think would stay together because they would see themselves as sort of being liberal and needing to unite. And so I don't think that you would see piece by piece. There might be certain other, 1 or 2 other territories in Canada that might also push for secession, but I think largely it would stay together, and they'd be in a lot of trouble.
Because they'd have no energy anymore. Basically,
well, that's right.
West, their economy.
That's right. Alberta pays into so much of so many of these other more left-wing areas are sort of reliant on them. So it would certainly put them in a difficult position. Having said all of that, I don't think that it's likely to occur. I think that they've lowered the threshold of the amount of signatories that is necessary to trigger a vote or an exploratory committee. Am I correct about that? I think that that's something that's occurred. And so it's within reach of getting the signatories needed to trigger a committee or a vote on it. But I just don't think that you're likely to see that occur. I also don't know what that would look like. I'm not sure what the Canadian Constitution or laws would say about that. If they vote to leave, I'm sure that there's some sort of process that the Canadian PM is going to be like, but you can't. Right? Or if you, in order for you to leave, if you vote for it, you have to turn over X, Y, Z. And so I don't think it would be that simple that they'll vote to leave and the Canadian government will go, okay. I could be wrong. I can't claim to be an expert. So I would say the chance of them voting to secede, to join the United States is very, very low. And even if they did, I think that it would be difficulty for them to accomplish it. Now, you could end up with some, hypothetically, I think this is even the least likely scenario. Trump could be like, hey, they want to leave. They want to come. The Canadian government's authoritarians that won't let them. We're going to send our military. I guess that's in the realm of possibility, but obviously I don't think that would be. Yeah, someone says
it's going to be a big, beautiful movement.
Yeah, it's most beautiful. No one respects Alberta more than me. Yeah. So
hey, one last thing. I know you got a lot of people calling, but Kiwi, let's see you jump on. I want to see some Cope Wars episode 4.
Yeah, he ain't coming in. He knows. Come on, Kiwi. You're right. I'm such an idiot. Call in. Yeah, you know how that goes. I'm sure it's probably one of the he either won't call in because he's a coward, or he can't call in because he's one of the dudes that have been banned from the channel who just creates new accounts every week. So it's probably one of the other, and so he knows if he'd call in, we'd recognize his voice. Nonetheless, Call in, Kiwi. Call in. Don't be a coward. You can do it. You don't even have to download StreamYard. All you have to do is go to the URL. Super simple. I'll put the link out there again. So
hey, one last thing, Rob. I really dug the Cope Wars. I thought that was super funny. One of the things that now you're going to be doing it more full time. You know how the Crucible crew has the TikTok invasions, and they made the whole AI Starship Troopers thing. I think that something like that, where you're kind of getting a little more creative and a little bit memey with it, I think that's a great direction. So
thank you. I agree with you, and it's something that I'm going to be talking about with Black Elk and some other people we're going to try to increase audience participation and things like that. To sort of make it more fun. So it's not just about the intellectual pursuits that I bring, but it's also about I think having fun as a community. So having fun comes natural to me. Like I'm having fun talking to some moron until 5 a.m. about definitions of the word jurisdiction, but I understand that like a lot of that stuff, like Andrew does a fantastic job over there on the Crucible with sort of the Starship Trooper stuff. So we'll come up with something, I'll put my own spin on it. But yeah, I think you're very astute to say that. And it's definitely something I've thought about. I got some other ideas. Maybe we'll talk about one of them towards the end here, though someone might steal my idea because I'm months away from implementing it, but maybe I'll talk about it at the end of the show. So Canisius, thank you so much, man. I always appreciate your support and thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Take it easy. All right. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats. What's up? No super chats during that call? Don't make me shake my jowls. No, I appreciate all of you. I really do. Let's bring it on.
Hey, it's me.
Grid Motorsports. What's happening, Grid? How you doing, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. I'm doing fantastic. I see you're wearing your Crucible hat.
Yeah. It's my new favorite hat, to be honest. It's really
I'm going to have to get some Crucible merch. Here's the thing. I think that the Crucible and their audience could probably put together a baseball team that would beat the Pirates. So in a weird way, your hat would be superior to mine in pretty much every way, not just in a like online political debate sphere, but also probably in baseball. See, now people are telling me you're too gosh darn loud.
Well, it's
I'll
normal.
There we go. So, how have you been, though, man? I know we talked the other day there. I hope you got back.
Yesterday,
your drive was okay?
Yeah. No, my wife actually really liked your commentary. She thought it was really good.
She heard while I was on speakerphone, was in the car?
Yeah. I was in the car and I was I was in the truck. So I think I mentioned this before, but I don't know. It just, I don't know. I never know what I say. So, but we have an apartment in Jersey City, right across from Manhattan, because my wife's office was in Manhattan, and now she's doing other things. So, she hasn't been there in like 4 or 5 months. So we decided to rent it. So we had to move all of her stuff. And so we flew up, rented a truck, spent the night in the apartment, cleaned everything up, and drove from Jersey City, Manhattan, basically, to Tennessee yesterday. 14 and a half hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a haul, man. Like,
yeah.
You did it all in one day, too?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Zen's Forehead. Actually, that was a really good debate. Average debate enjoyer got wrecked completely, but he was the nicest guy about getting wrecked ever.
He's a good guy. We've had a run in here and there, but he's a good guy. Maybe when I had a shorter fuse, I was a little rude to him, but yeah, he's a decent guy. And I think that he's fun to debate. So I guarantee you guys had a good one. So.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you taking the time yesterday. I know you were busy. You had your son and everything going on, but so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me yesterday.
I love, like, one of the things, sort of one of the things I'll be doing for the Crucible is helping with debate prep for Andrew or anyone else for the Crucible that needs help. It is like, I love debating. Debating's first and foremost what I like doing on this space, and certainly when I participate in the activity debate, actually doing it was my favorite thing. But I also loved coaching it and researching it. To me, it was like a way to get a competitive itch. It'd be the equivalent of like you play college football for 4 years, and then once you're out of eligibility, well, now you're a coach. That's how I looked at it. So I was still able to participate in the activity, and I thought I was pretty good at it, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So I'm always happy to help if I have time. And I think that you're ready to go with the debate you have upcoming. I think it's going to be a good one, and I'll look forward to watching it. I will.
I'm looking forward to Akana Boy's reaction, right? Because I just debate from a different point of view, and I had this. Andrew was going to have a debate a couple of weeks ago with this guy on Modern Day Debate, and it was a religious debate. And I don't normally I don't normally debate religion. I just don't feel I'm qualified. It's just not something I do. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so, whereas he was expecting, I believe, Andrew's very esoteric, the very philosophical arguments, what he got was a brawler that was just like, he asked me, he's like, well, don't you believe people are basically good? And I'm like, no. If it wasn't for Christianity, I'd be a pirate slitting throats. I mean, let's just be honest about it, right? The look on his face was just, he was like, wait, what?
It's an interesting sort of philosophical conundrum. I do believe there are people out there that without religion, without Christianity, are able to operate within a framework that we would interpret without knowing why they're doing it. It would look basically within the tenets of what we consider moral, right? So they maybe wouldn't be. But the truth is, I think what I've come to realize is those people are sort of exceptions to the rule. And certainly when you branch it out to a societal level, if you embrace secularism or if you embrace a false god, I think that you make it inevitable that you get a society that engages in all sorts of immorality. So the individual could overcome that, but as a whole societally, the average will be not. And so if we're honest, if that's true, and I believe that is true, then what are the chances that me and you are the exceptional instead of the average?
No, I'm not exceptional at all.
Right. And so it's sort of the question of like, back when I liked Jordan Peterson, where he said the scariest things when he realized I would have been a Nazi, right? That's the scariest thing when you realize like, well, wait a minute, right? The idea of sort of, I would never do that. The truth is most people would. If all of your society and everyone you know is engaged with that, I would have never owned slaves, right? I would,
my family did.
Maybe not. Yeah, so it's an interesting, but to your greater point of like sort of debating in a way that people don't expect, I think one of the strong suits that you could do if you're someone who's debating a lot is be unpredictable, right? Like you should always be authentic, right? But the truth is, as authentic people, there's many sides to all of us, right? So sometimes you're more of a fighter. Sometimes maybe you're more calm and analytic. And I think that it really benefits if you're capable of debating in multiple styles like that, because it makes it hard to prepare, what type of argument? And, I would never suggest being inauthentic unless it's clearly a game type debate, right? Like maybe you're purposely debating a topic that you don't believe in, and it's just for the fun of the activity. And that's certainly what collegiate
debate. For the likes.
Right. So like collegiate debate, like no one was arguing.
Get the likes up.
Right. So, but you should always be authentic. That's my honest, take on it. But there's it's to debate things from multiple angles or multiple styles. And I struggle with this all the time. Sometimes I think if I just sound like this the whole time and I'm like, listen, I actually think you're wrong. This is how I would do it. And other times if I'm like, you freaking dolt, what are you talking about? Like,
I love this with economics. There are people who can't balance their fucking checkbook who are talking about global economics on a macro level. And I'm like, motherfucker, you can't balance your checkbook. You go to a check cashing place every week because you don't understand how to budget your money. Why are you talking to anyone about economics? Just shut up. Like, stop.
Yeah, I feel you.
Stop it. It's insane.
Hey, I wanted to kick something by you. I was going to do this in private, but I don't care. I'll do it here. So I have this idea for a show now that I have more time. And this might be a show that leads to me creating a separate channel, though it won't at first. And I'm tentative on the name, but it's going to be something like Real Effing Guys. It's going to be something like that. And the premise of the show is I'm going to have a non-political show where I interview. It's going to predominantly be guys in my life, like that live in the area here, who are like real men, like dudes that are welders, dudes that are farmers. And maybe we broach politics, but more what I want to represent is that like traditional masculinity is good and blue collar work is good. And the people that engage in that are doing worthwhile stuff and having fun, right? And like having good lives. And so one of the people I was talking about, it's going to be more focused on people I know in my personal life, but I was talking about people that I could interview online that I've interacted with. And I was like, I happen to know a guy who actually is heavily involved with owning a race car team. And I think that's pretty damn manly. So I thought I was going to ask if you'd be interested at some point, once I get that show kicked off, coming on and talking about it, and like what you thought of the broader idea for the show in the first place.
I like the idea for the show. It's kind of like the Dirty Jobs, but you're going to sit down and talk, and I like that. I said, and it's interesting because I was talking to my my wife and one of our business partners were talking, and she shows me this text chain of this guy who's we've appointed him CEO of our investment fund, and he's texting directly with contractors, and he doesn't know how to talk to blue collar people, and they don't know how to talk to him. And so it's fucking funny as shit. Like, it's the most hilarious thing you've ever seen in your life.
I had like, this is a true story. This happened. I had a friend who was dating someone, and this friend was close enough that we were in a lot of same social circles, right? So maybe a party or a Christmas event or whatever, a lot of where this guy and his girlfriend would be there. And this one particular event we walked into, and there happened to be a lot of older people there who I'd never met. And we walk in within like 3 seconds. I hear they're talking about college football, which I don't follow all that thoroughly. But somehow within 3 minutes, I'm just shooting the breeze with these like old timers. And they're talking about like, you know, I'm from the Pittsburgh area. So they're talking about like, you know, oh, we remember when, you know, all these old timer Pittsburgh players, you know, back when Pitt was really good in the 80s, you know, and like going off and all this stuff, like Tony Dorsett and all these dudes. And I'm just shooting the breeze with them, having fun. And after about 20 minutes that I walk in, and my friend's girlfriend's there, and she's like, how do you do that? And I was like, do what? And she's like, talk to people. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I can't talk to people. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to really say to that. It just comes natural to me. Like for me, I like to think that I'm the type of person that you could set me in a room with a bunch of high-powered CEOs and I could have a conversation with them. And then I could go back to the bar where I used to bartend, where no one has a full set of teeth and everyone's borderline alcoholic that's working a 9-to-5 job on a roof somewhere carrying shingles for $10 an hour. And I fit right in with them. Being able to like actually talk to people and empathize with them, like it's a skill. And it's amazing how so many very talented, intelligent people are incapable of having sort of a conversation with large swaths of people because they're just operating at a different speed, right? Not necessarily a good or bad speed. They just operate in a different like wavelength than other people. So it's interesting you say that. I've certainly seen that myself, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And, you know, I've worked with all kinds of different people and just, it's really been, I feel like I've been blessed to have a really good, cool life, but I do believe that one of the things a lot of people get locked into is this, they have a debate formula that they just fill in the blanks for the debate and this point. And so it's really, again, I was telling my wife, I go and watch everybody's debate footage so I can see what they do and how they react. And then I prepare counters because I know that more than likely that's what they're going to do in the debate with me.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an interesting. Yeah, most people, they don't switch up like from what they're and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, it's not a negative, right? But it can be exploited.
It certainly can. Right. One thing though is if you try to change too much, then oftentimes you end up one of the. When I debated this, we had this qualifying tournament my last year, and you had to place in like the top, basically the top like 20% to qualify for the big national tournament, like basically the NCAA basketball tournament of debate. Mm-hmm. And we were like killing. I think we went 5-0, and there was this team at that tournament that had legit one of the best debaters in the country. Like now, the year before, him and his partner were dominant. His partner graduated. So he was still dominant, but his partner was an up-and-comer, and I certainly was better than his partner. But this dude was better than me. And we walk into this debate, and we decided as a team that we were going to massively change the style that we debated. Because we're like, dude, this dude's going to be prepped to the gills to debate us. He knows what our arguments are. So we're going to make arguments that we've basically, not only arguments we've never made before, but like we're basically going to be hippie communists.
Yeah, change the style.
And we got crushed. And it's like, we should have just did what we did and been like, hey man, like that's not who we are, you know? And I always regret it. Now we still did well enough in the last 2 rounds that we made it. We qualified for the national tournament, but I was still mad. That was our first loss at that tournament. And I was like, well, if I'm going to lose, I should have lost doing what I like instead of trying to change to be clever. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, but it's certainly, you know, hey, when you're doing debate prep, if you got the time and the will to do it, certainly watching previous arguments that your opponents made is one of the best things you could do. I'll give you the final word because I do have I've
got to go start my show. Everybody hit that like button. Throw in some super chats. Nobody sent $1 in. That's a shame because this is quality stuff.
That's all right. They know I mentioned like eating, and everyone wants me to lose weight, so they're like, "We're not sending this guy any more money." So, thank you, Grid. I always appreciate it, man. Also, we'll talk soon about. I know the sort of the debate show that you have running. I would love to be
it's
part
gonna
of
be
that.
tomorrow night. Yeah,
it's gonna be tomorrow night.
Be there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you transition it to Fridays, let me know.
I'll do it.
I would be more than happy to be part of that as a contestant, as a judge, whatever you need from me. So,
yeah.
Thanks so much, Grid.
You got
it's
a
always
super
great.
chat, so I'm going to let you get to that.
Nico's
you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Grid. Wow, look at that. Nico's been talking trash all night. Donates $100. This damn Nico says, "Hello, weirdo. I'm truly happy for Rob. Thanks for allowing me to vent and talk shit in the chat. Also, some of those in chat thought I was Kiwi. Hilarious. God bless you, Rob, and your family. This is for Hank. Thanks again, weirdo. Team Rob, 100%. Yeah, Nico's clearly trolling. It was funny to see the people that don't know him in the chat. I think Nico's he's been supporting me for a long time. Nico, incredibly generous. Thank you so much for the $100. Look at that. The guy that was talking trash on me the whole time donated more money than anyone else tonight. How does that make you feel? Ashamed. No, seriously, though, thank you, Nico. I appreciate it. I assure you, Nico, unless Nico's like super committed to the ruse where he's still Kiwi and he's like a ventriloquist. He's typing like on 2 keyboards at the same time, pretty good. All right, next in the order, we got Help. What's up,
Hello.
Help? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks so much for calling in. What's happening?
So I just had about 3 points that I wanted to talk about real fast. Hopefully
Sure.
they're quick. First is with the Abrego Garcia case. From everything I've seen, he had a withholding for Guatemala. Have you seen where he...
Yes, I follow a guy named Shipwreck Crew, who I think is one of the best legal people online. And just to give you a glimpse of his bias, he certainly has a pro-Trump bias, right? So just leave that color. I am aware of what you're talking about. His interpretation is that the judge that put the word Guatemala mistakenly put the word Guatemala, and that all the judges since then knew that the intent of the order was El Salvador. And he goes through a lot of reasons why that's the case, not the least of which is there were no connections to Guatemala. All of the case has been argued to have been El Salvador since, and even the Trump administration admitted that it was their belief that he had a withholding from El Salvador. So why would Trump's team have ever said, yeah, this was a mistake? If they were like, no, the order was Guatemala, we sent him to El Salvador, no problem. So I think that it was a clerical error and that everyone has operated since then under the assumption that that was a clerical error and the withholding was actually from El Salvador.
So that brings me actually to my second point. Which people in the Trump admin have actually said that it's a mistake? The only one that I knew of was the lawyer who first argued the case.
That may be true. I'm unaware. I know that there was at least one, and maybe it was the lawyer from the DOJ that argued this. But if this is the case, I mean, presumably this is an argument that Trump's team could bring up. They could do this, right? It would, and I guess the argument would be, well, they didn't feel. To me, it would seem a risky strategy. Yeah, trolling the Democrats is one thing, but you're arguing in front of a judge and you never bring this argument up. You're never like, oh, by the way, it was Guatemala. Anyways, you just never bring it up. And you've been held in contempt. You're continually going in front of the judge. And then you're like, oh, and by the way, the most important argument we haven't talked about in 2 months nearly, which is we didn't violate any order anyways. It was always Guatemala. It would seem to be risky because then a judge might have a case for contempt. And I don't know how willing the Supreme Court would be to I'm assuming the Supreme Court wouldn't care. But I mean, I don't know. But it seems to me that it was clear that the order was from El Salvador. But you're right. I can't point to, without doing a little research here, exactly who, other than that one lawyer from the DOJ, said that this was a mistake.
Yeah, because I tried looking it up. Everyone keeps saying Trump admin, Trump admin, Trump admin. And the only person that I've actually heard say this is this poisonous attorney who literally was doing everything he could to bomb the case, bringing that up. And furthermore, when you're saying, well, why haven't they brought it up since? Well, with court proceedings, don't they have very strict structures about what they can and can't bring up at different times? And at this point, they're kind of locked in.
I don't theoretically, yes, but I don't think that this would have been something that was unable to be broached. I just I don't know that it's I can't look. I'm not a legal expert, so I
Yeah,
can't
neither am
say
I.
that
Neither am I.
definitively, but I do know that like from reading the case, the transcripts, not thoroughly, mind you, but from reading them, it doesn't make sense that the order would have been from Guatemala. Knowing all of the story, the fact that even if you think that this Trump attorney the DOJ attorney was throwing the case, like they did admit it. No one's came back and said, no, actually that dude was wrong from the Trump administration.
Well, Stephen Miller kind of did. Stephen
Did he?
Miller, when he was in the office with Bukele, he said specifically there was no administrative error or something like that.
Well, maybe he said that. Let's see if I could real quick see if I could find if anyone else said this. I don't know. I'm looking.
Yeah, no, and again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but it's definitely something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Yeah, Stephen Miller contradicts court documents.
Let's see.
Yeah. White House aide Stephen Miller contradicted a number of statements the Trump administration has made in court, claiming a Maryland man was not deported to Salvadoran prison in air. Miller's comments came after the Justice Department said Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian national and Maryland resident, was deported due to administrative error, as he was protected from deportation in a 2019 order from a document from a judge.
So
yeah, Stephen Miller said it.
The name I'm seeing from the Trump team is Robert Cerna.
Department.
Is that the lawyer you're talking about?
This article saying Irez Ruvini.
Okay, let's look up Robert Cerna.
The career Justice Department attorney who made the disclosure was suspended later when Attorney General Pam Bondi said he failed to vigorously defend the Trump administration.
Okay.
This was his direct quote, Stephen Miller's direct quote. Nobody was mistakenly deported anywhere. That's a big fact that most of you, have gotten wrong. No one was mistakenly sent anywhere. The only mistake that was made is a lawyer put an incorrect line in a legal filing that's been relieved. He is
acting immigration and customs enforcement field office director Robert Cerna said that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was removed from the U.S. on March 15th as part of a series of deportation flights of gang members and notorious, even though an immigration judge had granted him a legal protection for deportation. Let's see. That's not really saying what the headline seems. So let me see if I can find a better article. Let's see. Oops. Robert Cerna, the acting field office director for ICE, says Abrego Garcia, a native of citizen of El Salvador, was on the third flight and thus had his removal order to El Salvador executed. This removal was an error. So that was the acting head of ICE that also admitted that it was an error.
There was a second person who said it.
Yeah, but again, I'm just looking at this as you're talking, so I can't claim to be an expert.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting position. Theoretically, if it's true that his withholding order was from Guatemala and not from El Salvador, then there's no problem whatsoever, right? That it's like, well, nothing was done in violation. End of story. We'll see. We'll see if that's the case. I guess the argument could be the reason that Trump has been mum about this is that he wants the lefties to make a fool of themselves defending someone who's most likely an MS-13 member and making a big hullabaloo about nothing. That's theoretically a position. I would not prefer that. I would prefer if this was not an error that Trump's team would have came out and publicly said from the get-go, this wasn't an error. I think all of my reading of it shows that actually the clerical error was saying Guatemala instead of El Salvador. But we'll see. I guess anything's possible.
Wasn't his family's business in Guatemala?
Eventually it was. He had a business in Guatemala, yeah. But it seemed to be, if you looked right, like if you looked at sort of the claims that were being made in that trial, it seemed that they were referencing El Salvador because it talked about areas that he previously lived, et cetera, et cetera. So like he never lived in Guatemala when he fled, right? And so the idea that like they were going to send him back to his country of origin, and they pleaded for a withholding order from Guatemala where he would have never been sent because he never set foot in, seems a bit odd. Why would like that would be like if they were going to, if you were from Mexico and they were going to send you back to Mexico and you were like, but dude, I'm deathly afraid to go to Japan. You'd be like, okay, what does that have shit all to do with anything? Right? We're going to send you to Mexico.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but the main reason was because the gang was threatening his family's business, which was in Guatemala, to my understanding. Again, I
Yeah,
could
but they
be
weren't
wrong.
going to send. There are conflicting reports that there was the gang in Guatemala plus the gang threatening him in El Salvador. Certainly, his family was in Guatemala at one point, but again, like I don't know why you would raise these objections if you were never going to be sent to Guatemala, unless there's some sort of claim that they were like, well, we're going to send you to Guatemala because that's where your family is. I'm unaware of any time that's ever happened in the history of our deportations where we deported someone to a sovereign nation where they weren't a citizen from, nor had ever been, because they have family there. So like, for example, if an illegal came from Mexico, but since that illegal came, his family moved from Mexico to Brazil, that we would be like, well, we're not going to deport you back to where you're a native citizen. We're going to deport you to a country you've never been to because you have friends or family there. I don't know that that's ever happened in history.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a possibility. I honestly, I have no clue, to be honest. I'm still operating under the assumption until there is credible deference made or credible arguments made by the Trump administration. Actually, we knew that he was allowed to be deported to El Salvador because it was Guatemala that there was withholding. I'm operating under that assumption that it was a clerical error. It was actually El Salvador that the withholding was.
And the main document that we would need to actually see where Abrego Garcia actually signed it is somehow missing from the public records.
Isn't that convenient as always, right? Yeah. Any day now they're going to find that door at the Waco compound that David Koresh said showed evidence that the government was shooting into, that we have video evidence that they loaded in the evidence van, and then whoops, the entire door came up missing. Seems to happen more often than not than when there's any evidence that's incriminating to the establishment narrative. So,
but yeah, I definitely look up the original filing in Judge Zenus's court, because that lawyer was literally doing things that were poisoning the DOJ's.
I'll have to check it out. I've thumbed through some of the withholding order case, but that's not the case you're talking about. You're talking about from the Trump administration. I haven't done much on that. But,
basically, one statement that I think is the most egregious is he said, this is not quoting perfectly, but he said basically the Trump administration gave me reasons why this happened, but I don't agree with them, so I'm not going to share them with the court.
Yeah, that's always good to have people. Isn't that a theme though of sort of even Trump's first term? Bureaucrats within that are sabotaging him because they think they know better. You know, it's certainly a theme, and you hope that Trump's put better people in charge this time, because the first term, certainly some of it's beyond his control because the swamp is so deep and vast.
Oh, yeah.
And these unelected bureaucrats actually are the central hub of power in Washington, and they just feel we're untouchable. We don't care who the elected leader is. We're in charge. And so how do you replace all of those people? And you can see look at the judges that are like, you can't fire this person. You can't do this. You can't do that to even get rid of people and install people that are loyal, you know? So yeah, I don't,
and same
without
thing
knowing
with
the
lawyers.
details, I'm not surprised at all that you would have people in the DOJ that are operating like that.
And same thing with lawyers and also some FBI agents and all these other people. They have their own agendas within the agencies, and they're definitely going to make them well known. And then the third thing, real fast, you've talked a lot about kind of Israel, how Israel has protections that other countries don't. And I do agree that we can criticize Israel. I do agree that we should be able to do that. But I think the biggest reason why people are so protective of Israel is because Israel is literally one of the countries in this world that almost a third of the world wants to just destroy, like outright genocide them, kill them all off the face of the planet. Now,
I don't care. I don't care at all.
I
don't care. I care as a human being, but I don't care from the perspective of it's none of the United States business, right? If
Right.
everyone decides they want to kill Bukele in El Salvador, then all of a sudden are we going to bomb Iran for them? I don't think so. You know, like the values that our country upholds should be first and foremost for the citizens of this country. The government exists in order to serve those people that are citizens of this country. And so I don't want to see more concern with people in this country that are saying death to Israel than death to America. Kiss my ass. That's what I say to that. I believe in free speech. I think it's egregious to be passing laws that say that we're going to punish people for speaking out against Israel in this country. It's outrageous. And you could have the biggest heart in the world for Israel and say, but it's not fair. They're the greatest people in the world. And for no reason whatsoever, the rest of the world are a bunch of meanie bullies and they're going after them. And so we have to stand up to bullies. Completely disagree. I'm not saying that Israel's always in the wrong, but I'm not even saying that you're wrong. That's what a lot of people will use as justification, but they're sweethearts and they're bullied. And so we have to stick up for them. I don't care at all. It's completely irrelevant to my argument.
I'm not trying to change your argument. I'm just kind of giving context. Like it's the
yeah,
same
I think you're right. I think that's, you know, and then along with that, well, they're one of our allies in the region, and without them, yep, I've heard it all before. For me, it's irrelevant. I just don't care. Now, having said that, like as a human being, the idea of a group of people that everyone wants to wipe out is horrific, right? But it's not the United States place. We, as the world police, have failed through ineptitude and corruption so much while simultaneously making things worse in many of the areas we've interfered in and simultaneously doing a disservice to the people of this country that even if there was a time for the United States to be the world's arbiter and the world's police, that time has come and gone. Not until we could get people that are competent and aren't corrupt back in issues of power. And so the idea that we somehow should be arbiters of, well, wait a minute, is Israel the bully or are they the victim that's being bullied? I'm sorry. By the way, I feel the same way about India, Pakistan. Not our business, right? Feel the same way about Ukraine, Russia. Not our business. You know, maybe it's possible if everyone wants to kill Israel, Israel's doing something that makes everyone want to kill them. Maybe not. Maybe they're totally good people and they've never done anything wrong, right? But it's a ethnic and religious war that goes back well before any of us were here. And I think to oversimplify it is one side good and one side bad is erroneous. Does that mean one side's more good and one side's more bad? Or that could be the truth? Of course, that could be the truth. But you know, if they took the west of the United States and said, now this is going to be property of Iran and Muslims now, 50 years from now, would people in Eastern United States be like, hey, we're still mad about that. We want that land back. Maybe. I don't know. So I don't know. I just have zero interest in looking into this because I know the overarching point. It'd be the equivalent of it's like, well, here's this house and, you know, it looks like a good deal. And it's like, oh, yeah, but I heard that the PERT test won't pass, that there's a problem with like, you know, sewage seeping through the land and stuff like that. We could have a big debate on is that true or not? But if the conclusion that I'm going to reach no matter what is I have zero interest in buying that house no matter what, no matter if it was $1, then why do I care to heavily invest time in it? The United States shouldn't be involved, period, end of story. For sake of interesting argument, would I listen to people say, but Palestine's the evil people? No, it's Israel. Sure, for the sake of argument, I'll listen to it. It's irrelevant to whether or not we should be passing hate speech laws about Israel in the United States, particularly at a time when there are so many groups like my group in rural America that are being targeted and treated like crap over and over, or white people or Christians or men. Insert any group of American citizens that get treated like crap and smeared by all of our institutions. But no one cares about that. Instead, it's, well, whatever. You can say what you want about those groups, but don't you dare criticize Israel. So I just have no time of day for it.
Yeah, no, and I was just explaining the mindset. I wasn't.
Oh yeah,
trying to change your mind.
I'm not. By no means am I accusing. I think it's. You're right to bring that up. That is certainly an argument that people make. But I'm just explaining. That's one of the reasons I haven't. Maybe I should have been more clear that is an argument that people make. It's just it means nothing to me. Like in my calculus of what ultimately. Now, as a person, I don't want people to want to genocide Israel, nor do I want Israelis to want to genocide people in Gaza. I don't like either of that. I would prefer no one die. But you know, that's so.
Okay. Well,
But
yeah,
it
those
helped.
were just
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Call in anytime. We're going to try to do a call-in show probably around every Friday. Now, the time slots might change. I'm going to tinker with some things as I'm starting to stream full-time here. But no, it was a great conversation. I look forward to talking to you again, man, if you did want to call back in.
Yep, sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, man. Thanks, help. We'll see you. All right. Last speaker we have queued up right now. Did I miss any super chats? Yes, I did. Side Guy 33 for $2 says, for more food, hit the sub notifications on. Thank you. Yeah, and I saw that Kiwi was saying I was morbidly obese. Morbidly, maybe. Canisius 4W for $2 says, Grid said to donate, so here's a 2 spot. Hashtag Crucible. Thank you, Canisius. Thanks for calling in and thanks for the donation. Yeah, how could you all deny Grid? My goodness. I might be a slovenly, out of shape, rude, annoying, high-pitched, whiny complainer, but Grid Motorsports, a man. How could you deny him? The great Jess Gerald, always incredibly generous with me and so many other streamers. Thank you so much, Jess Gerald, for $10. Says, I'm happy things worked out for you, Rob. The turmoil is heavy, and I get it. Here's Normal America, clinks glass and downs tequila. I don't have any tequila. I do have some. What do I have over there? I have. I got Cavassier. But no drinking for me tonight. So thank you, Jess Gerald. Always honored to have you donate to me. Thanks so much, man. Hope I do all of you proud that have donated or that haven't donated. Really appreciate it. All right, last person we have in the queue, Mega Max, with a nice Nick Rekieta avatar there. What's up, Mega Max? What's on your mind this evening?
Nothing much. I was just calling in. I'm glad that you enjoy the nitrous oxide.
I'll
Rekieta.
be honest, I did not follow any of the drama surrounding him. I know sort of the broad outlines. Having said that, I haven't listened to a lot of his content previous to that, but I did find him to be an intelligent sounding
Previous
person.
stuff before he went down swinger degeneracy road was pretty decent stuff.
Yeah.
His trial streams were informative, and his old streaming stuff was also fun, especially when he got his buddy Drex on. But once he started going down the swinger degeneracy style, it was a hard go down, man.
Well, isn't that the story of so many people? Like,
Yeah.
It's amazing how sin will catch up for you, right?
And
right.
it's amazing how everyone's like, oh, everyone thinks they're Billy Badass when it comes to drugs, that they can, handle a drug addiction or whatever. Like, they can do the booger sugar, and then, oh, what happened? Oh, they crashed out. And they became just retarded and made the complete asses of themselves on stream.
Now, I'll just say I have no reason to disbelieve anything you're saying, but I have no knowledge of it. So for all
It's
I know,
fine.
Nick Rekieta's never done a drug, and you're unfairly smearing him. I just have no
Actually,
clue.
no. He is guilty and admitted guilty of being a drug user, pretty
Well,
much.
there you
or
go.
more possession of, but
I will also admit to being guilty of being a drug user in a previous lifetime. Not really previous lifetime. I used to be an alcoholic, but I've certainly done my share of drugs as well.
Well, he's an alcoholic and a cocaine head.
Well,
He's
there you go.
I never,
never-
as the drug recognition experts say, he's a polysubstance abuser.
I never made enough money to become a cocaine addict. So, that was out of my financial means. But no, I hear you though. Like I just didn't follow any of that.
Yeah, don't
it's
worry
sad.
about it.
Anytime children, I know that there was stories of potential children being involved. That's sad, no matter how you
Yeah,
slice it.
it's-
I don't know the
it's-
details though, and it wasn't something because I never interacted with him. Really, I never got into the details of it. I wish him well and his family well, but I don't know how much
I'd like
was
to
blown
wish
out of
him well
proportion.
too, but ever since he's come back and after his arrest, he's just been a complete fucking ass.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can really describe it. Just unrepentant. And like he'll say, well, yeah, I screwed up, but man, I had such a fun time doing it. It'd be like if you had a relapse or something and made a complete ass of yourself on stream, and then after you came back, it'd be like, well, that alcohol, me taking another drink, that was a bad idea, but man, was it fun. I made a lot of fun decisions. It's that sort of stuff.
Right.
It's
No,
just like-
I hear you. It certainly could get listen, for me, the best advice I have is someone that was an alcoholic, right? To me, all the people in the world telling me it was a bad idea and it was bad for my health and all of that stuff, it wasn't that. What it was I met my wife and I realized there was more important things to live for than just some stupid substance. And gradually what I found was I didn't need someone to tell me not, because I enjoyed spending every day with my then girlfriend, now wife. And then certainly that's even compounded more now that I'm a father. And so I think that a lot of people, I'm no expert, but for me, a lot of people I know that are still, forget drugs, just maybe boozing it up all the time. A lot of the people I know that are still doing that, they're either single or they don't have children. And it's like, there's sort of a hole in their life. Whereas the best thing you could do is be in a monogamous relationship, get married, have children, and then all that stuff sorts itself. I'm not saying that life becomes perfect, but all of a sudden, all that other stuff, at least for me, it seemed like it's irrelevant. I don't care about it anymore. It used to be that I would be like, man, I have to work on Friday night. I wish I could go out with my friends at the bar. And now it's like the once or twice a year that I go out, I have to like psych myself up for it. Like, I don't know. I just want to sit at home with my kid and play dinosaurs. I guess I'll go out, So
that's one of the things realizing is playing dinosaurs or playing action figures as an adult is cool. It's even cooler when you get to do it with your kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely. That certainly is.
Anyway, to the point I want to make, I think there's a couple things. One, when it comes to like everyone's comments on Trump sort of ruining the right-wing coalition and stuff, I understand it, but I also see it as a shit test for everyone around the globe. When he was like being aggressive and doing the attacks on everyone, it was a shit test. Are you really an ally? If I put a little pressure on you, if I get a little aggressive, just like a check, how do you react? And I'd say most of the world failed that shit test of like proving they're actually allies. Because to me, the proper way to go about it would have been, if you're, let's say for Canada, for example, well, Trump, what's up? What's wrong? Why are we doing this? Oh, we're doing tariffs. Well, let's go into negotiations. No, we're not going to be the 51st state. That's pretty funny though, or like that sort of stuff. Just sort of blow it off or just recognize it as a joke. Instead, most of the countries went like full shit lid panic mode of, oh my God, he is actually going to invade us or do X, Y, and Z. And we saw it with the Canadian election. Like their idiot boomer population came out and said, like, their top issue was not improving Canada, making it a better place for our kids to live. It was putting Trump in his place.
Well, now I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I do in the issue of pushing back a little. If Zelensky came here and blatantly was like, well, I'll tell you this, if you don't support us, then you're going to regret it because we're coming to your shores eventually, right? We're gonna influence your politics. You're all gonna be Ukrainian. I will guarantee you 99% of Trump supporters would have been like, oh, what did you just say? Now the power dynamic's different, so that would make it really dumb for Zelensky to say that because he relies on the United States. But certainly if someone did quote disrespected America and that, like, yeah, guess what? You're subservient to us. You're all going to be part of our country before too long. I will guarantee that 80 to 90% of Trump supporters would be like,
I get what he was saying was offensive, but part of it too is I think trying to just like big dick America isn't really a good idea. It's like a chihuahua trying to like be a big dick
if
towards
that's how you,
a fucking.
If you're really mad about it, you bide your time. You're right. The best way,
the proper thing would have done to just bide the time, but instead you go, and now it's just wow. This is it's like Canadian election. Hand the biggest mandate to the party that puts you through all that shit with COVID.
It is stupid. Like you said, the best thing that Pierre could have done was been like, listen, this is childish. But let's be honest, it's interesting to see the United States actually elect a person that's concerned about the people of his country first and foremost. And so, it's a joke him talking about Canada, but sure, don't you want a leader that's doing everything he can? And of course, look at how beautiful our country is. Who wouldn't want our country to be part of them? So I understand where Trump's coming from. And that's what I'm going to offer for our country. That you're actually going to have a leader
Trump of Canada. Right. I'll stand up in the smart way to Trump. I won't try to be like, oh, come and take it, Donald Trump. Come and take Canada from us. Because it's like, well, okay, I'll just take it from you. How are you going to stop?
I think that the Canadian situation on that level, that specific thing that there was an election and stuff's a little different. But to your broader point, right? Like, I learned this lesson sort of growing up, right? I did something stupid with like a bunch of the kids in my neighborhood. Like we were all, I don't know, I think it was something like we threw a baseball, we were throwing it off a shed and threw it through like the neighbor's garage window or something. And my dad was furious with me, like absolutely livid, like screaming at me. I was grounded for like a week. And as he's yelling at me, I like go in the house, and then he's out there talking to all my friends that were more responsible for this than me. And I remember later that day when he was not mad at me, I was like, how come you're yelling at me and not them? And he's like, because you're mine. That's why, right? I think that there's some of that in Trump where it's like, when your friends stab you in the back, you're even more mad about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so from the perspective of Trump, who I think truly believes that basically the middle class and the working class in this country has been sold out at the altar of like globalism and benefiting all these countries around the world. He's looking at like, okay, so we've been the world police. We've basically enabled all of these other countries to be more socialist because they don't have to pay for their military. They're supposed to be meeting obligations other places like NATO. They're putting all these tariffs on certain goods of us, and they're supposed to be our allies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to treat them harsher than someone that's supposed to be our enemy, like Putin, where it's like, of course, we expect Putin to be our enemy because he's our enemy. So with Putin, my language is going to be to try to like butter him up a little to get him to the table. So it's like, hey, man, yeah, I understand you're doing it. Now with my actions, I'll be harsh against Putin. And it's sort of the opposite with our allies. It's like, with my words, I'll be harsh, but you're still our ally.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you think of what's going on, like, for example, with the EU that's trying to like fine American social media companies billions of dollars if they don't censor, quote, disinformation. That's unacceptable. Right. And I think I have heard Trump's team sort of attach some talk of tariffs to that sort of policy. I expect our government to stick up for the people, the free speech of the people in our country, and the businesses that are embracing the values of our country that are located in the United States, like allowing free speech on social media. And so you're dang right. Why do I want to be in a militaristic alliance with a country who doesn't share our values and wants to not only imprison their own people for things like free speech, but force our companies to end free speech that will negatively affect the people.
Well, it's even worse in that they say they believe all these things, but just bastardize it in some of the just like worst ways possible. I remember just the stark contrast of right after JD Vance went to Europe and just sort of politely read them the riot act on, you guys are fucking up and being retarded. Please cut it out if we want to continue helping you out. And their response was, oh, I can't believe he said that to us. We're not retarded. We're obviously not doing this stupid shit. And then it's like 5 minutes later, we get a news segment from CNN about how the Germans are doing stupid shit.
Yep.
In this specific instance, it's literally policing and raiding people at 5 a.m. or 12 p.m. at night to arrest them for mean things said on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And look at the outrage that they had, like how undignified it was for Vance to bring that up. And again, the thing, when you're an authoritarian, the thing that angers you the most is when you can't control people and they're calling you out. That's why they're so interested in censorship in the first place. Like, there's this old adage, like, find the people you can't joke about, and that's the people in charge.
Oh, there's a couple of those.
Don't get me in trouble.
I'll just leave it at there.
Like I heard someone say once, like, if you go back and you look at like most of Shakespeare's plays, like, who was the person in all those plays that was telling the truth the most? It's almost always the court jester. Like, he's the only one that's actually speaking truth to power, like in almost every one of his plays, right? And there's sort of dictators, authoritarians can't stand to have someone show the mirror to themselves. How dare you? And they, Mike Benz talks about this a lot. They use this language, they bastardize language. So, for example, when they talk about, well, like Germany now, they're banning the AfD party that's
for
arguably
extremism, for right-wing extremists.
In the name of democracy.
And in the name of democracy to prevent right-wing extremism.
Right.
What is said right-wing extremism is a German party that believes that Germany is for Germans and the German people deserve to exist and should probably enforce some reasonable standards of borders. Oh my God.
Yep.
It's literally the next Hitler, guys. It's still 1940s, and we have not moved past World War II.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, and it's the same here in the United States. Like all of this stuff that we need to censor people to protect democracy. But wait a minute, in principle, now listen, I understand people use words incorrectly all the time and we can put different labels, but
Yeah.
we think, at least I think, and I think most people think when they hear democracy, they're not thinking of like direct democracy, one vote for one person. They're thinking in general, like the will of the people, the voice of the people. That's how most people are using the term democracy. And it's like, so what you're really saying is we have to shut the people up so that we can have the will of the people. Like, and it's like, that's antithetical to everything that allegedly,
Not
but
only
that's
that,
not what they mean by
but we
democracy.
have to go against the express wishes of the people
Right.
in order to preserve the will of the people.
But
I
what
mean,
they mean,
it's
what
one of
they
those
mean
things.
by democracy is there are a bunch of groups that we in power look at as our equals. So the FBI might be one, and like people at the top levels of the academic circle might be another, and people at the top levels of like certain oligarchs in different countries, they might be in these levels. That's democracy to them. How do we get the FBI and the CIA and USAID and sort of the rulership in Britain and the leaders in Germany? How do we get their voices to all matter? Now, if their voices are antithetical to, like, I don't know, the people in those countries that they're supposed to serve, that's irrelevant to them. Those people aren't part of the democracy equation. The institutions that have power, that's the democracy that they're talking about. And so populism is a threat to democracy. But how does that make sense? The very root of populism is the people should have a voice. But they say, no, the people shouldn't have a voice because that harms
we have
democracy.
experts for that, don't you know?
That's
we have
right.
our carefully curated experts that all agree with us that we're on the right path.
All animals are equal, but some are
We're
more equal than others.
And don't you know
what
it?
is.
All the good guys won the wars.
Yep.
And that's us.
So when you see, right, like you see these people in the name of, well, we have to lock up all of our opponents. And the problem is, even in the United States, all of these institutions that we look to and that we just blindly accept as authority figures, or at least so many people do, right? They're all in playing the same game. And so when they all say like, yeah, we have to censor disinformation, everybody's just like, well, yeah, like for example, I was debating this guy, Connor, right? And I was
Connor.
talking about
The cuck.
what was it? The National Endowment of Democracy or whatever that was funded through USAID that's like pressuring the Polish government to lock up the previous party in Poland that were populist, right? And like I'm saying, like one of the reasons they cite is, well, because they embraced mail-in voting during the pandemic. So in the United States, our institutions were saying, if you question mail-in voting, you should be censored.
Bad.
And then in Poland, they're saying, but if you push for mail-in voting, clearly that was for corruption and you should be jailed. And when I bring that up, Connor goes like this, goes to Wikipedia and goes, oh, well, this Wikipedia article says they're corrupt.
Yeah.
There you go. Good enough. As long as some institution somewhere said they're corrupt, well, then I guess it's okay that our government is taking our tax dollars to tell other countries to lock up the right-wing populist opposition. I guess it's okay as long as someone in an official capacity says they're corrupt. Yeah,
and
it's
part of the
laughable.
whole
It's laughable
mechanism of like laundering ideas and stuff of like the whole when like Carl Benjamin on his podcast was talking about like the democracy index. How dare these Americans talk to us, Germany, when we have a better score on the democracy index? Ignore the fact that we are literally removing a major party that represents at least like 25% of the German population. And we're just removing them from the ballot because they are quote unquote right-wing extremists. That's never given it with a term that has literally no meaning.
There was this. So I remember back like 2021, 2022, I was debating a person or people, and we were talking about extremism and which side has more political violence, political extremism, etc. And there was this study that was going around. I remember the organization was CISA. It was like Center for Strategic something. It was CISA.
Yeah.
And there was this study going around that everyone was citing. It was like the study of the day. And our government had cited this and other places. And it was like,
of course, it was the right wing was more violent.
you're right. And it was like, all right.
But it's like, oh, who was counting it? Oh, it's all left wingers.
Well, then you looked into it. You looked into it, and it was like, well, how do they define domestic terrorism? Right.
Yep.
And so they defined it very broadly in a way that I found acceptable. It was like, non-government institution. So it wouldn't be domestic terror. We wouldn't consider it domestic terrorism if like the military of Canada came in and did something. We'd be like, well, that's war, right? Yeah. So it's got to be a non-government entity that's engaged in violence or intimidation in order to change laws and policies. And right now, this is like 2021, 2022, this study comes out. And I read the study and it's like, yeah, there was like in the last 10 years, like something like 2 instances of left wing of this occurring. Yeah. And I'm like, really? You can't think of any institution where you had non-government people using violence or rioting in the name of
left-wing causes,
some left-wing cause. They couldn't think of one. And then when you went down and you read the fine print, I shit you not, what it said was, we don't count Black Lives Matter and Antifa and the George Floyd riots. Like, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. And so it's like, oh, so for example, if I say left-wingers commit more violence, and the way I define the word violence is actions using physical imposition on someone that is unwarranted in a legal sense that's done by left-wingers. Yeah. And I say, see, there's no right-wing violence. Well, no shit. I just defined the term violence as only being capable of left-wingers. They do this all the time with words like fascism. They'll say the definition of fascism, it has to be right-wing. Now,
which
if
is
you think about
hilarious,
it, it's like,
because if you look at the actual genealogy of fascism, where it comes from, it is completely the bastard child of socialism.
So a lot of them use like Umberto Eco's like 13, things of fascism.
Oh, look at it. A commie trying to deny.
Well, even that, even if you take it, like you go through some of what he's saying, it's like,
it's all shit that applies to
with
everyone,
us or against us mentality, right? With us or against us mentality. Like, dude, the entire left is saying it's not enough to be non-racist. You have to be anti-racist, right? And it's like, revisionist history. It's like, dude, you're tearing down statues. Right?
Not only that, but it's like, you guys are the side that's like, Stalin is a good guy. He didn't do nothing. Right up until, okay, now we can't deny Stalin was murdering people, but it wasn't really that bad. Okay, yes, it was that bad. But, that Mao Zedong guy, he's a good dude. He didn't starve all those people. Okay, yeah, maybe he did. But it wasn't really his fault. It was someone else's fault. It's the whole fucking rigmarole with the left on that. So it's always hilarious when they say revising history.
You're having these debates with people, and you're like, okay, like why do we care about the word fascism, right? Like, why does it matter? If you get to the root of it, like fascism's just a label. It is the actions that occur within fascism that, like, for example, fascism, part of fascism is it's a political ideology, right? Is that what we're mad about? Well, no one's saying political ideologies. No, I refuse to accept that, right? It's like, well, no,
except
there's something that
enlightened centrists around here.
It's something that when we use the term fascism, what is the negative connotation? And when you get down to brass tacks, it's like authoritarianism, right? That's
racist
what we're
authoritarianism,
about. Right, or whatever.
Specifically,
some form,
the Nazis.
Some form of like the actions that are occurring. And so it's like, well, what are those actions that you're worried about fascism? Like silencing people and using jackboot military people to enforce. And it's like, right. So then if there's another ideology that does that, and let's call it love puppyism, we would still say that's bad, even though it's called love puppyism, because it's using jackboot military people to crack down and silence people they disagree with, right? Just because we're going to say, well, it can't be fascism because we don't define it as fascism, but still the actions within fascism that we find despicable, this other group, despite what they call themselves, is doing, and therefore is also condemnable, correct? But no, see, because what you don't understand is Antifa can't be fascist because they're anti-fascist. And so I would say to these people, like, okay, well, then I want to start an authoritarian group called, like, we love all black people, minorities, and trans people. That's the name of our group. And if you're against it, well, then clearly you hate black people and trans people, right? Isn't that the way it's so childish? And it's very important the way that they control language to be able to do this, right?
And it forces you to do the stupid lollipop dance.
Right. And
And
so
when you're
like
doing the stupid lollipop dance, you're either making an ass of yourself because you're actually doing the dance, or you have to do a whole bunch of stuff just to avoid doing it.
yeah, it's
And
it's
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 like-
really frustrating. It is, and it becomes tedious in these debates, right? And
Oh yeah,
even
well
I
your
fall victim
Pisco
to it.
debate was
Right.
annoying as shit because he
Right.
just wouldn't accept that when it comes to the proper definition of jurisdiction for this court is that in order to have jurisdiction over a case, you have to be have to have personal jurisdiction, territorial / venue jurisdiction, and subject matter jurisdiction. If you do not have all three of these required jurisdictions and the various other jurisdictions necessary in order to see the case, you do not have jurisdiction over this case. Boom, end of conversation, right there and there.
Well, yes,
And that's
I mean,
all you had to
it's-
do to
it
beat
could
him.
It could be a little. There's a little more nuance than that, but you're right in general.
Technically, yes.
The problem is, right, the way that he argued, like I could make Pisco's argument better than him. Like, actually, when it comes to the word jurisdiction, there are different definitions of it, which all do have to go to sort of court's power in order to hear and adjudicate cases. That is true. I'm not going to be silly and say, well, jurisdiction could mean pie. Theoretically, it could. If your mom makes pie every day and says, I call this pie jurisdiction, well, then that's jurisdiction as well, right? Like, that's the stupidity that he's doing, right? Yeah. And so when you're forced to, when you're debating someone, be like, yes, we could start from, you could literally start, there's no end to where you could start. Right? You could be like, well, theoretically, you're just a figment of my imagination. Maybe I don't even exist. Maybe I'm an AI construct myself, and you're a construct within my construct. And so, therefore, everything that we see is reality. For example, let's take the Constitution of the United States. Has only been constructed 10 minutes before this debate, and false memories have been implanted into us. And actually, the real founding fathers wrote a document that was antithetical to everything the Constitution says. So therefore, the real foundation of the United States, as it was yesterday, before this AI construct created this false history and implanted memories in our brain, was vastly different. So we're operating on a scale. I guess you could do that. You could say, theoretically, that's a possibility. I suppose it is. And by the way, every word that we're using here, when I say them, I could literally have the 180-degree opposite meaning of what you think. Therefore, you think you win this debate, and I lose this debate's wrong because actually I win the debate because you've conceded it's possible that everything I said is the exact opposite of what I'm saying. So therefore, I win the debate, which would mean I lose the debate, though, right? Like, yes, you could debate like that. You could say, well, everything's a social construct, and we could mean whatever we say. But you start to see the absurdity of like, well, then that renders all utility of any conversation meaningless in the first place. So what's the point of even having this conversation?
It becomes a stupid pedantic thing where it's just, when you get into those sorts of debates with left-wingers or Pisco, you just got to shut them off from it. You just, in my opinion, you just got to cut them off and say, we're not doing this bullshit. You know, and I know, and we both know we each other's know. So let's just cut this horse shit. You know, this court does not have jurisdiction over this case because it does not have all the necessary, it does not meet all the prerequisite necessary jurisdictions. It's missing one of them or two of them or however many. And in your stupid variation of, yes, there could potentially, maybe, somewhere, somehow, but no, it's not. In America, as the Supreme Court said, this court did not have the jurisdiction to say, turn those planes around.
That I just want you to know that the argument that Pisco is going to make is that territorial jurisdiction means venue. And there are authors that say that venue is not the same of jurisdiction, because when they use the term jurisdiction, they don't mean the court's ability to lawfully have power to adjudicate a case, because the term power is something that means difference as well. And so there's these people like this guy, Wright, this scholar, and what he writes about is he says, actually, venue is a subset of rules that courts have to abide by as well, but it's not the same as jurisdiction. So yes, they are rules that say that the court cannot hear this case unless these privileges are waived by people, but it's not the same as jurisdiction. So that's the argument he's trying to make. But the way he tries to make that argument is, couldn't jurisdiction mean football? Couldn't it mean skunk? Couldn't you have a
just
fish
cut him off and hit him with the hard no?
Right. And so like,
jurisdiction means jurisdiction. And in this case, the reason this court or that court guy lacked the jurisdiction to turn around the plane was because he did not have venue/territorial jurisdiction.
So the point is, even the argument in its first place, even if he would be right, Theoretically. It's still
Theoretically.
purely semantic from the purpose of why this term got brought up in the first place. I was saying clearly Boasberg didn't have the authority to rule on this case, which is true. I used the term jurisdiction, semantically quibbling and saying, well, he didn't have the authority, but he did have the jurisdiction, just not the authority because of improper venue. Is literally just, but I enjoy the meta argument anyways. And by the way, the next time if Pisco agrees to have this debate with me, he will be thoroughly crushed, because one thing I will say is it did, because I'm a spiteful asshole. I thought I won the debate, but I also thought I could have done much better, if I'm completely honest. And so next time I will do much better, because I actually did research and I actually read many of the court cases he was going to be citing, and it turns out that he's wrong, right?
Well,
and I went over it on stream. So
I heard this from Steven Crowder, but it's like when it comes to left-wing lawyers, if you're an actual lawyer, that's who you want to face in court, because they don't actually know shit about law. What they know is their idealized version that they will pick and choose from to create their law. And that flies all right in California country, but even then, at the end of the day, when it comes to law, brass has to be taxed here, and we can't just play around stupid games.
Yeah, I totally agree.
To me, like the only lawyer that's left wing that I can see as like decent, it's because he's not a damn leftist when he's giving his law opinion, is like Alan Dershowitz.
Yep.
Like he's an honest lawyer, because he doesn't have the frame of mind of a left winger when he's giving law analysis, insofar as like trying to override. Well, no, he can actually give the opposite right wing argument and argue it and understand why the right wingers would believe no restrictions on firearms.
Right. Well, hey man, I'm gonna let you go. I'll break up 15 more minutes here and I'm gonna wrap up. But it was great to have you come on. I know, like, StreamYard's kind of a pain the first time you use it, but
I figured it out pretty quick, and it's fine. And I guess just with the story behind this little Nick Rekieta image, I'll give is I posted this as a joke on Kiwi Farms that he's the next Crash Team Racing villain. Nick Nitrous Rekieta, the second best first place lawyer and second place first place racer, last place lawyer, not practicing.
All I have to say about it is, I'm not saying your criticisms are correct or not. I literally have not broached or felt interested to look into this. So you might be completely defaming him and be lying, or maybe you're completely telling the truth. I don't take a stance.
And so the joke is just a reference to him. The new theory now is that he's getting high on Galaxy gas while on stream.
Oh, well, maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
That's the joke for him having the nitrous and the N on his head. If you know anything about Crash Bandicoot,
I know Neo Cortex from Crash Bandicoot. That I know, but I'm not taking. If any of Nick's people are watching, I don't know if any of this is true. Nor do I take a stance. Nor do I care. I barely know the guy, so I'm not trying to find myself in some drama that it's like, oh, did you hear what Rob said? I ain't saying any of this shit. It could be true. It might not be. I don't care.
And sorry to the chat. It just happened. I made this post thing one day. It just happened. But next time, I won't talk about Nick. I promise.
Okay. Well, hey, Megamax, thanks for calling in. And hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Man. Well, hopefully with your better schedule, you'll be able to do more call-in shows later in. I
hope so. I hope, like I said, I think that I'm going to try, I'll talk about it a little here, but I think I'm going to try to do some more late night streams, like into the AM. I think that's maybe the first attempt I'm going to make, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So I don't know if that fits your schedule.
Too late. Keep a good schedule.
But if you listen, I'll explain why that's the theory I have the time. So I'll let you go, and then I'll talk to the audience.
No problem. You guys
all right, man. Thanks so much. Yep. So yeah, on that instance, so like here's some of the time frames that I'm thinking of streaming. There are potential morning streams. The reason that a morning stream might be good is because I don't know that a lot of people in our sphere stream in the morning. So that could be a potential to be good. Downside of that is I think a lot of the collaboration stuff that I'll be doing sort of behind the scenes, setting up debate prep, research, stuff like that's probably likely to occur during the day. So morning stream might not work so well. If you look at other streams that then, 12 to 5 seems iffy because I think a lot of people are working then. And so, and it's not the type of people like the night crowd that's working. I think they're listening or wanting something to listen to because there's not entertainment options. So that doesn't have the same criticism as I would have between 12 to 5. If I leave open the spot around 8 o'clock, that means that I could do extra streaming anytime someone wants to do a debate or a panel, because most of the time those are around 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So for example, if I regularly stream 6 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern, then I'd still be able to do my regular streams and then add on as a bonus anytime I'm doing a debate. Same if I was streaming from 10 p.m. till 12 or midnight, it would be the same thing. I think for my channel, it has nothing to do with Andrew or the Crucible, but it would make sense for me, seeing as how I'm working with Andrew Wilson now, to try to piggyback off his success because I'm greedy. And I think a lot of the people in the Crucible audience would like me. So it would be really dumb for me to set up scheduled time streaming at the same time that I know Andrew Wilson's going to be streaming. Now, normally Andrew Wilson streams late, so I could lead into Andrew Wilson. So maybe stream, if he's streaming at 11 p.m., maybe my normal streaming times could be 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And that's something that I'll strongly consider. Or I could stream after him. So if he's normally streaming from like till midnight, if I started streaming at 11 p.m. and then streamed until 1 a.m., a lot of people that were watching Andrew may come and watch me. So like those, to try to stream after Andrew would maximize my ability to sort of get an audience that would have a predisposed, to liking me and to wanting to watch me. So it would make sense to stream after him. Now, the problem with that is I think that as a full-time streamer, probably the most important thing for me to do first and foremost is to be consistent, to have a time set that everybody in my audience knows, whatever time that is, 7 p.m., Rob's streaming. Weeknight, 7 p.m., Rob's streaming, unless some emergency came up or he told us, hey, I'm on vacation, I can't stream tomorrow night. Other than that, we know every night, just like before the days of the internet, for all of you old heads out there, when you're watching television and you're like, or maybe even still like, I'm watching Monday Night Football. I know what channel it's on. I know it starts at 8:20, period, end of story, right? Like that sort of thing. So you want to be consistent. The problem with that, though, is Andrew is like the busiest man in the world. So he's constantly doing in-person live debates, and he's doing sort of, debates on his stream, and he's taking impromptu debates. And so oftentimes he doesn't have a schedule that's like, yep, I'm starting at 9 p.m. and I'm going till midnight. And so it's difficult for me then to say, oh, if I'm trying to grift off Andrew, I'll start streaming right at midnight, 10 minutes before midnight, and then he could raid me. Whoopee! It's hard to do that because he's so busy and so eclectic in his time slots because he has so many offers and he's doing so much. It makes it difficult to set that up. So I thought at least maybe here in the weeks coming, probably not next week or the week after, I'm probably going to keep at this 7 p.m. time slot to the days that I can. But I think as I transition to be doing this more full time, because let me be clear, I'm still technically employed at my other job. It's difficult. I can't really go into the details, but I'm not doing the hours that I was. At this point, it's more that I'm almost administrative in that job. But there still could be times, particularly in the evening, when I'm doing things like visiting a person at a medical facility or something of that nature. So I can't guarantee that I'll be streaming 5 days a week next week. I can't guarantee that. I'm going to try my best, but the crazy nature of what's going on at my work with a dire medical situation is very fluid. And I really do hope people work with me. And I assure you that will be ending soon in the context of I will no longer be an employee. And so it'll still be a dear friend of mine. And it'll be someone that if there was a terrible medical situation as a friend, I would be there, but it won't be like I'm working 90 hours a week, like that it's been the case. So, but I think one of the first time slots that I'm going to try is 11 p.m. till 1 a.m. I think I'm going to try that, and we'll see. Now, maybe there'll only be 30 people watching because everyone's in bed, or maybe I'll get a vastly different audience. But it's something that I've considered. That's sort of my thoughts on that time slot and why it would work. Other time slots that make sense is like someone suggested 5 to 7. That does make sense. It opens up that 8 o'clock hour. If I have some sort of debate, I could stream 5 to 7. Take an hour off, go get a bite to eat, come back on, do the debates if I'm on a debate panel or something like that. That would make sense. Or regularly streaming like 8 to 10. Maybe that would be more of a lead-in traditionally to the Crucible, which would be fine as well. But Yeah, there, Captain Phoenix says go on before Andrew. It's a possibility. So the key is, though, Andrew Wilson owes me nothing, owes my channel nothing. And me working with him has nothing to do with my channel growing or anything of that nature. My channel is independent in that sense. And so by no means am I even remotely broaching the subject with Andrew of like, when's the ideal time for me to stream to grift off your channel? Like, I'm not doing that. I will make a decision on my own and I'll live with that decision. And it might mean that for the near future that I'll try a time slot for a week or two, and then maybe I'll try a different time slot, and then ultimately ask the audience like, hey, what do you think works best? So that might be, that might be what you're likely to see. Super chat, I saw came in. Nico Pluto, who's been the absolute winner tonight, not only talking trash on me while trying to goad that Kiwi guy into calling, but also has donated the most money tonight. Nico Pluto for $5 says, weirdo. Probably the most true thing anyone said about me this evening. 1 to 5. Another potential problem, there's other potential problems that I have to see. For example, right? If I'm going to be doing like research and stuff to help Andrew or anyone else on the Crucible that are doing a debate, the chances are they'll be doing a debate probably sometime between the hours of 5 to 9 p.m. And so the preparation for that is likely to be before then, right? 1 to 5. So if I'm streaming then I can't do my job. So that's time slot that I would like to leave open potentially, right? Yeah, and I'll pick Andrew's brain sometime, but clearly it's like, dude, your first day on the job, you're not going in like, well, what can you do for me? Right? My goal is to do everything in my power to take Andrew from a guy who's wrecking people in all of these debates to a guy who's wrecking people twice as hard in all these debates while laughing twice as hard about it. That's my goal, right? So that's what I'm focused on when it comes to working with the Crucible. Zen's Forehead, thanks so much for $5. Says you should do a randomizer bit, debate other debaters or the audience on absurd topics. I would love to do something like that. Some ideas I was kicking around is, like I said, this show where I really want to highlight why I think living in rural America and blue collar workers and traditional masculinity is so awesome. And I think the best way to do that is to talk to the people. I am a very emasculine man when it comes down to it in many aspects. Like, I'm a crappy blue collar worker, but those are the people I respect the most. And so I think there's no better way to show why living in rural America, why being a blue collar worker is one of the greatest things imaginable than to highlight the very people that live those lives. And so I will be honored to do that. And a lot of that will be, once I get the ball rolling, asking people in my audience that would be interested in telling their story to do that. It's going to be a super relaxed conversation if I do this show. Politics may come up, it may not. Maybe it's a left winger, maybe it's a right winger. It will be irrelevant to the scope of, and what my hope is, particularly, I want to see young kids watching this going, you know what? I don't have to go off to some Marxist indoctrinated college to get a phony degree in hopes of getting a good job. Look at those guys Rob talked to that were welders that are making $30-40 an hour, living in an area where they could buy a house for $80,000 that's 4-bedroom. Meanwhile, they have no student loan. And instead, you know what they're doing on a weeknight? Oh, they bought another 4-wheeler. Oh, they bought another dirt bike. Oh, they bought a snowmobile. Oh, they went on vacation to Cancun, right? I think highlighting just how awesome these people I know that are the backbone of the country. It's something that I always wanted to do on my channel, and now I'll be afforded more of an opportunity to do it. And if it turns into politics, if it turns into religion, whatever, but it's going to be a fun conversation. Someone said like Mike Rowe. I would liken it more to like a platform that I see like Theo Vaughn having, except you're focused exclusively on talking to like blue collar workers. And we're sorry, ladies, we're limiting it to men, because at least from the get-go, that's what I want to focus on, traditional masculinity. Not that there aren't women that do cool jobs, but that's the idea. I did put up a clothesline today, so that's the idea behind it. And a lot of it's going to be in person, right? So like the first people you see in the show are going to be people I know in real life that live around me, and we're going to be down in my basement that we're fixing up, and we're going to do a show, have a couple beers, sit there, shoot the shit for like an hour. It won't be live. It'll be pre-recorded, and then we're going to upload that video. So that's the goal, so that's one type of show that I have an idea of. Another type of show that I think we've been working on for a long time that's super simple, makes complete sense, is probably at least once a week we're going to do a debate review show. I think I'm in a unique capacity as someone who has judged many, many debates at the collegiate level and thinks that I'm pretty good at debate. I think I'm in a good position to review debates, and people hopefully will be interested in that. So I think that's good, like React content that people will be interested in. So that's certainly a show that I'm going to be doing. I really want to collaborate almost exclusively with right wingers that I would like to see grow their channels as well. Now, not exclusively in the sense that I'll talk to bigger right wingers, but I'd love to be talking to Jake from Project VOD that called in, Grid Motorsports, my buddy Aircraft Sparky, my better buddy Drone Tech Politics, Sarah Kane, who's fantastic. Let's be frank. Any other up-and-coming right-wing streamers love to have one day a week, not talking to the same person every week, but have a day where it's like, hey, on this day, I'm going to have a guest, and it's going to be more of an interview about right-wing politics or right-wing culture than it is a debate. So it'll be someone that I agree with. I would like to have a debate show. And I used to have this show with this guy, Aftershock, who's a great friend of the show. He's helped me out tremendously with my channel. I know he's busy with a lot of stuff he has going on in life now, but I used to have this show that I thought was unique in this space where it was a me versus person debate. And the hook of it was Aftershock was going to moderate, and I didn't pick the topic. Aftershock would pick one topic as the moderator, and my opponent would pick the other, and I wouldn't know the topics. I would like to take that one step further. I will need to find someone that's a moderator. I have a person in mind. I would like to not only not pick or know the topic, but also not know my opponent, and have the guy that's going to be the moderator contact a bunch of people that might want to debate me, set up the debate, the moderator agree. It would have to be a topic that's within the realm of, logic. Like, I don't know that I'm really gung-ho for a bunch of who would win in a fight, Vegeta versus Goku debates. But after that, leave that moderator guy set up all the details, and all I know is 7 o'clock, I'm debating someone on something, and that's it. And I think that does two things. One, I think it'll highlight my skills as a debater, that I'm able, when someone's had all week to prepare for me, and I don't know who that person is or what the topic is, I could still do very well. And then more importantly than that, I get to be lazy because I don't even have to worry about preparation because it's impossible for me to prep. So that's, I think it would be a good opportunity. So those are some of the types of, and of course, doing normal shows, right? Just talking the politics of the day like I do most of the times when I come on and stream. That's certainly going to be something that I'm doing every week as well. Roar89, thanks so much for the $5, man. Says you're going full time, working with Andrew. I missed the announcement and need to be informed. Yes, I will be streaming full time. It might be a little wonky for a month or two, but you're going to see me streaming more. Within a couple months, I will be completely transitioned out of the job that I have now. And that means that I will be going as a full-time streamer. One of the difficulties in becoming a full-time streamer is, as someone like me who is a husband and a father, my number one job in this world is providing for my wife and providing for my son. And so it's difficult to take a risk on yourself and go from a job where you're making guaranteed money to a job where you're hoping that you make money. One, I might not be skilled enough. Second, maybe the economy downturns and people that are generous in the audience just don't have the money to support anymore. And so that unforeseen situation could affect me financially, where I'm incapable then, without the guaranteed money, of paying my bills. Or third, like, I could get demonetized or banned from a place like YouTube. And then through, I have no ability to recuperate that money. So it was always risky. And I've talked about this a lot in the show. What we really need are people that are more financially successful to sort of start supporting up and coming streamers, because on the right, these institutional advantages for being on the left, or another way to put it is disadvantages to being on the right, means that the algorithm messes with you, you get demonetized. I tell the story of my friend Drone Tech Politics. Drone Tech circa 2015, 2016 was killing it. He's killing it. All of a sudden, when he decides, hey, I'm going to make this my full-time career, bam, demonetized. No reason. Then this dude that made a financial decision for his family, who through his own skill had built a business where he's doing very well on these platforms. And if you know Drone Tech, he's not someone who's like edgy in the sense that he's throwing around racial slurs or hatred. He's just criticizing Democrats in the media. All of a sudden, he's demonetized. Then the algorithm screws with him. And so now what? Now you already made a financial decision based on, what you were going to do for a career, and through no fault of your own, you're screwed. So what you need is guaranteed money. That's why having a contract with someone like a Steven Crowder, a Glenn Beck, a Daily Wire, those people that have built these sort of brands that have the ability to employ people and give them guaranteed money. That's what's so important for so many people to enter this space, because a lot of people, particularly people that have to provide for their families, they can't take that risk, or they're unwilling to take that risk. And that's certainly the situation I was in. Absolutely, that was the situation where I was in. I have too many friends that did things like, you know what, I have 2 kids, but I'm going to quit my job and join a band because I think I'm a really good guitar player. And then they lose their house because they quit their job and they're not making money as a band. I can't be that guy. So that's where I was at. Unfortunately, then, to go a little deeper in this, I, through medical situation, not of my own, but of a person that I support through my work, working with adults with disabilities, I may be out of a job soon because I may not be able to provide the level of care necessary due to some illnesses that are occurring. And so I was in this weird spot where it's like, wow, I might just be out of a job as early as next week. I may be. What am I going to do? And of course, the backup plan would be, while I look for a job, to stream full time. And Andrew Wilson reached out to me and was like, how would you like to be an employee of the Crucible? Helping us with research, helping us with debate preparation, and in general, helping with the goal of dominating in this online space to win cultural and political battles in this online space that then translate into the real world, to turn this country in a direction that we both want to see go. And I said, yes, I would be more than happy to do that. And so now I have the opportunity where I'm actually an employee doing something that I want. And then my channel, I could go full time on top of that. And that's the story. So I will be working with Andrew Wilson, and I'll be able to stream full time. So that's what afforded me that opportunity. And if it wasn't for Andrew, then I wouldn't be able to stream full time. So I'm always will be grateful for him, even if we somehow have some brutal argument in the future and we're yelling and screaming at each other. There will never be a bone in my body that's not completely and always grateful to Andrew and Rachel for giving me this opportunity. So I thank them from the bottom of my heart. Doesn't mean if I disagree with them, I won't say it. Doesn't mean that Andrew's like told me, oh, and you can't disagree with me or argue with me on your show. None of that. One of the things that's great about Andrew is he doesn't want someone that's a yes man. He wants people that have their own thoughts. So I don't feel pressured at all to change the content of my channel in any way whatsoever. So I hope, Roar, that sums it up. Steve Granger, thank you so much for the $50. I really appreciate it. Incredibly generous. Says, for the grift. For the grift. We will take it. Cody Folsom for $10. Thanks so much. Says, hope all is well, Rob. Just GT got back. Collins, I'm finishing up, but we did do Collins. We did. Thank you, Jess Gerald, for the kind words too. Yeah, and I think the other thing is there's ups and downs. Like I had a job where I'm making $21 an hour. I love what I do. I particularly, for 14 years, have taken care of primarily one person. That person's, to me, a family member at this point. I've spent half my life for the past 14 years helping support this person. It's so hard to leave. It really is. Its situation seems like it's likely to be taken out of my hands. So it's, but it's guaranteed money. I make $21 an hour roughly at my current job, but I make decent money because I'm averaging 90 hours a week. That money will be really hard to make up being a full-time streamer. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to make as much money as I did working 90 hours a week. Surprise, surprise. Even if $21 an hour isn't a lot of money, if you work 90 hours a week, you're making some money. But what's your quality of life if you miss every important event in your son's life because you're working 90 hours a week? And so for me, I think that is the obviously the financial providing for my wife and kid is first and foremost. But once you reach a certain level where you're not starving, where you're paying the bills, do you really need more money so you could buy a sweet new four-wheeler or a sweet new this or that, or go on this vacation if it means I never get to see my kid? What kind of dad am I being? So, all right, I'll do one drink. It says get a drink, I'll toast. I can do that, Zen. Oh, what am I going with? We're going to go with the old... we're not getting fancy with Cavassier tonight. We'll go with some Bird Dog. One little sip so Zen could toast to me. Zen's been around for a long time. I used to think Zen was the Zen Shapiro that was always debating on the Crucible, but now I know he's not. He's just his forehead. So I'm a lightweight, so we're just going to do a little more than that. It's Friday night, I think. So does StreamYards need a subscription to chat? No, you don't need to download StreamYards. You don't need subscription or nothing. All you need is the link. But I'm done taking callers tonight because I'll be wrapping up here soon. And if I bring one caller in, then I'll bring 7 and I'll be here till 4 a.m. So unless something radically changes. All right. We'll wait if people want to toast to me. Oh, we got some more super chats coming in. Thank you. Guys are too nice. Thank you. Stank Jesus, thank you as always, man, for $5. Says just showing some love to the channel, bro. You're gonna do great going full time. Wish you the best, man. Thank you so much. Before I get to Jess Gerald here, who's always incredibly generous, I do want to give a shout out to someone who was on my chat last night, Java Crow, who generously through PayPal donated money to me. Thank you so much. One of the things about donating to YouTube, yes, they do take a portion, but it's so easy to see your chat in real time. And I can put it up on the channel like this so everyone can see. If you're donating to PayPal, I'm probably not going to notice until after the stream. And then me being the buffoon I am, most of the time I forget to check it and then go on the next stream and say, hey, I really want to thank the people that don't. In fact, if you're donating to PayPal, I'm getting a bigger percentage of it. So I absolutely should be thanking people. So thank you so much to Java Crow for your incredible donation last evening as well. And then Jess Gerald, as always, man, incredibly generous for $100. Thank you so much. Says we want to see you succeed, Rob. Cheers. Gerald's in it for the long haul. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. True story. One of my best friends in high school's name was Gerald, and he lived like sort of back this wooded, not really wood, but was sort of like a gravel road. And I can't quite remember where it is. So there's this running joke I've had with my wife for years where like anytime we're like on a graveled road, I'm like, I think this is Gerald's house. I think he's back here. And like I've searched for Gerald's house for like hours upon hours upon hours to show my wife. It's not a remarkable house. It's just a regular house. But to me, that's like, you know, it's like the Holy Grail. Someday we're going to stumble onto Gerald's house. I'm not going to knock on the door or anything. I'm going to be like, there it is. I told you it existed, wife. I'll probably screw it up though. So every time I see your name, I think of that Jess Gerald. I'm like, I wonder if it's my buddy Gerald from high school. Struck it rich. I haven't talked to him and oh my goodness. It would be 22 years probably since I've talked to Gerald. Maybe it's Jess Gerald. And my Gerald from high school is like, I don't know. He was a bigger dude, but he was an incredible line dancer. So maybe Jess Gerald is a professional line dancer now that's like touring the country. And he's just like, yeah, my old buddy Rob. I won't tell him it's me, but I'll throw him some money. So thank you, Gerald. I appreciate it. All right. Anyone who wants to drink to my success, to conservative success, to cultural victories, to the Crucible and Andrew Wilson, to my great wife and my son, and to the amazing audience that I've built, particularly those that financially donate, as this is my job now. Thank you so much. I can't wait to represent you well. I can't wait to help Andrew Wilson crush his opponents and take his channel even further into the stratosphere and open up the groundwork for more great people to come in. I'm excited to do it, and I can't wait to be doing something I love in a full-time basis and hopefully even going better in the ability not just to have more time with my family, but to support my family as well. So cheers to all of you. I'll try not to make a pinch face since I'm a sissy now and barely drink anymore, so we'll see here. Not bad. I prefer the Bird Dog. Oh, there we go. The Bird Dog Blackberry to the peach. More of a blackberry fan. So, yeah, it started 3 hours ago. So, not likely to be streaming tomorrow, though you never know. But got some family stuff going on tomorrow. I think one of the things that we're doing for Mother's Day is we're going out to some greenhouses, see if we can get some nice plants. I think the wife wants a new tree for the yard, so we might be looking at some trees. I don't know what I'm partial to. I saw a sycamore I liked, so we'll see about it. God's favorite aunt, thank you so much. Member for 3 months. Cheers to your new future. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really do. You guys are incredibly generous. It's, like I said, I'm going to try to make a go of this for at least a year. At the end of the year, if it's a situation where it's like I'm in finance, it turns out that I wasn't successful enough, I'm not making enough money, maybe I'll have to get another job. I wouldn't quit streaming, but it might mean, and I hope my audience would understand, that I have to do what I have to do to provide for my family. But I'm willing to bet on myself, and I think we're going to do pretty good. I think we're going to at least come close enough to where I can provide for my family based on streaming full time and my employment with Andrew. And I think that's going to be enough to keep me doing what I love, because not only do I get to do what I love here, but I get to spend more time with my family. Cody Folsom, thank you so much, man, for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. Always do. Thanks so much, Cody. Sorry it was late with the call in there, but I know how I am. If I open up the phones here now, I'll be here until 5 a.m. So, king status. Totally agree. Cody Folsom, crushing it. I got some ideas for things that we're going to do for members only as well. The first thing that should already being implemented is all of the videos that my great editor Black Elk edits are going to be available to members first. So he's probably going to schedule those like at the same time every day, like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. every day. They'll be uploaded for a general audience. But as soon as he's finishing editing those, whether it be 9 at night, 2 in the morning, 7 in the morning, if you're a member, you're going to get first access to be able to see those videos. We're going to do some other things. I got some ideas. We're looking at some potential merch, some Normal America Norbiters, maybe a Rob GPT shirt we'll be doing. And then I know I have different tiers of membership, and so I'm going to work out what to do for the people that are a higher tier of member, but I think that it's important the people that are doing that. So Debate First Amender again. Was that the dude that was like, tyranny? The heartbeat of this country saddens as we see the fall of the eagle. No more will people understand the plight of those whose tears have cried trails throughout this society. For once the red man lived here until the white, in the name of democracy, displaced with tyranny. No more shall we suffer the indignities of the inequities of men that have came before us. That guy? Why debate him? I could just pretend to be him and do a better job. Norbiters. Yeah. There's a question. Is it Norbiters or Norbiters? It's Norbiters, but is it going to be spelled Noerrbitters? Like this? Or is it going to be spelled like this? We'll have to do an audience poll. That's a great question. Yeah, Cody H became a Warrior member. It does sound better, But I'd like to do at least some member-only videos. The Norbiters, we're going to crush it, man. And then we're going to do some more fun stuff, we're going to get some more emojis and stuff. We're going to have more fun with it. I hope that people appreciated my lame little, did anyone who's been here since the beginning, did anybody appreciate my Nor's Notes segment with my little PowerPoint here? Anybody appreciate that? It was supposed to have a little ditty song with it first. But we'll try to work on some things, Hopefully the Nor's Notes segment takes off. It's like Tucker's monologue or Bill O'Reilly's talking points. I hope. Maybe I'll upload all of those to my Discord, all the PowerPoints, so you could be like, I'll have to date them too. Then you'll have an idea of what I was talking about. Naughty Germ, thanks so much for $5. Always appreciate it, man. Cash App doesn't take 30% like YouTube, and you could display it on screen and get tips from people after the stream ends. Yeah, I didn't. That's actually a great idea. I know I use PayPal. And I don't think PayPal takes much. My PayPal is PayPal at Robert Knorr. I'll put that. That's my PayPal. Like that. Look at that. Look at my little face. So I get a higher percentage. But there's also, and again, I know I just said I don't want to bother Andrew with this stuff, but Andrew used to have the dono.chat thing, which takes 0% because it's a payment service that he created. So I'll have to look into that as well. And I know a lot of people at the Crucible are familiar with that. Roman King, thank you, man. Always support, even if we're arguing about Ukraine, Russia. I really do. I really appreciate the support, man. Thanks for being a member for 3 months. It says, that's good news, Rob. God bless you in the Crucible. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Really do. Should have Yee's new track is just on the background while I'm displaying the Norse notes. Just Yee's new track. It's a banger, I hear. I haven't seen it. Venmo. Do I have Venmo? Probably. I'm sure my wife will know if I have Venmo. I'll have to ask her. I'm going to compile a list, though, and then we'll, maybe what we'll do is we'll routinely flash it on the screen. Like I'll have some way that I could just copy paste real simple, and then just click as we're going, like, hey, here's PayPal, here's Venmo, whatever, just so you can see it scroll across. Or I guess you can create banners like this. Be sure to get those super chats in. What could you use banners for? Use banners to summarize talking points and display calls to action. There you go. But what's a banner? This is an example of a banner. Click on a banner to show it on screen. Wow. Did I just blow you guys' mind? Huh? How about that? Look at this. Did I put this little guy up there? Or bam! North America with Rob Noor. How about that? Then I got some overlays. Let's see. How about that? I got my intro, my outro. We could do backgrounds. Let's see what we got here. No, I don't think that's going to work. I don't know the backgrounds. Oh, I have to do this. Whoa. How about that? How about that? Whoa. Then we can get some music going. Right? Just play some banging music the whole time. Right? StreamYard's like idiot proof. If you're just getting into streaming, like OBS, it's got more features, I think, but StreamYard's like super simplified. I can do all this stuff, and then what else can I do here? Oh, look at that. You like that? How about, let's see. Ooh. Pretty cool. Default camera, like square, the circle guy, this guy. Pretty cool. Yeah. How about that? Wait, that could just be my whole stream. Watch a boomer idiot struggle through tech and be amazed at the simplest of things that every single person in his audience is like, yeah, that's not that neat. And I'll be like, whoa, look at that. Wow. That might be some exciting content. I am such a boomer. It's totally true. Also, I've debated starting this. I'm partial to this hat now because my son got it for me for Easter, but man, do the pirates suck. So $10 to throw a tomato. Yeah, we can do something like that. Oh, Andrew probably would license out some songs to me. I also have friends that are musicians that I'm sure would allow me to pay them to make some songs as well. Boomer Rob is amazed by moving pictures. It's truly amazing. Am I Gen X? I think that I am a millennial. I think I'm on the tail end of it as a 40-year-old. Set up a crypto donation QR code on your Twitter and YouTube pages. I don't know the first thing about crypto, but that's something that I could look into. What's the news? Oh, yeah, I'm working with Andrew Wilson on the Crucible now, and I'm going to be streaming full time. Fascinated by small objects. All right. Now, one of the things that I'm supposed to be doing is raiding people. So let's see if I can figure this nonsense out. You go to community. Is that right? Oh, gosh darn it. Black Elk sent me an explanation on this. It's so like Twitch rating someone was so easy. I'm just gonna have to look into it. I'm not gonna be able to do it tonight. It was so easy. Okay, rate an unreasonable man. Okay. Now someone asked me to raid. So now I got to raid. Handle pronoun. Oh, I could add pronouns on my YouTube. Wow. Well, that's cool. All right. Someone talk me through how to raid here again. I'm on YouTube Studio. I think that's where I start, right? Oh, here we go. Thank you so much, Attic Rat. Good luck in your new adventure. Thank you. I gotta change this style. I don't like this. Yeah, we like that. That's better. Or do we like this? Yes, that's what we like. Yeah. All right, where you at, EOD? Tell me how to do this. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about EOD, the editor privilege and stuff. I got to figure that out as well. Yeah, we're finishing up. I'm just trying to figure out how to rob. Would I be in favor of joining Andrew on a TikTok invasion? Sure, I'd do it. No problem. He would have to talk me through the technology because I think you have to do it through like BlueStacks or something. Edit stream settings community. Okay. Edit stream. Okay. My channel. Edit video. Settings. Community. Okay. Now where do I? Man, am I an idiot. Oh, I'll raid Rattlesnake if he's on. Yeah, man. If people are tight on money, please, please, please. I'm not missing many meals, so don't feel bad at all. I totally get it, man. Like I say all the time, I would absolutely love to donate to all sorts of people. Edit this stream, settings, community. I see community moderation. General, channel, advanced settings. Upload to phone. I've done this before. I just don't know. I'm not going to be able to do it tonight because I'm an idiot. It's really sucks to realize you're an absolute idiot when I am an absolute idiot. That's the gist of it. So, community moderation. Okay, that's where I was at. Settings, community moderation. Then I got managing moderators, standard moderators, approved users, hidden users. All channels could redirect to my content. Paste the channel URL of a user to allow live redirect from. Blocked words, blocked links. That's all I see. I don't see where I could redirect. Am I missing something? I'm still getting donations. Thanks, Cody Folsom, for the this is wonderful. Thank you, Cody, for the 5 memberships. People are donating to me, watching me struggle. Okay. Can I do this? Is there anything here that I am... Paste the channel to standard moderator, add approved user, hidden users, live redirects, allows other creators to send their views, specific channels that could redirect, blocked words, blocked links. That's it. Here, I'll show you. This is risky because, but here, this is what I'm looking at. See, managing moderators, approved user. Or is that where I put it? Approved user, hidden users, live redirects, specific channel that could redirect, block words, blocked links. Where is it? What am I missing? Yeah, I don't see where I'm missing it. Wrong menu. Redirects. Where's redirects? See, redirects are just the channels that could redirect to my account. Is it under channel guidelines? No. Defaults? No. So I just don't know. Customization. Okay, let's. All right. All right. Customization. All right. Redirect. There we go. Search videos from other channels. What's Jake's channel? Holy cow. I can't believe anyone's still watching me. This is wonderful. I guess I got to figure this out at some point. There we go. There we go. All right. Save. Now, how's it work? When I just end my stream, it automatically goes there? Is that how it works? Can someone talk me through the next step of this? Holy shit, I'm pathetic. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, people massage my ego. Oh, Rob, you're a smart guy. I am such an idiot. I happen to be a pretty good debater. That's about it. I'm so dumb at everything else in life. My goodness. Jen says, I just joined. Imagine watching me for the first time ever, and it's just like, what do I do here? What? Redirect? Oh, it's all right, Nico. A little humility goes a long way. So, all right, we're going to try to end the stream, and hopefully you guys will be bouncing over to Jake Rattlesnake. Thank you so much to everyone who's financially supported me today. Thank you to everyone that supports me, whether you agree or disagree with me. Everyone who called in today, thanks for helping make this show. I look forward to talking to you all soon. It'll probably be Monday around 7 p.m., though. If I have time tomorrow, I'll do an impromptu stream. So I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Looking forward to doing more of this. I really am. And I can't wait to continue to hopefully impress people and continue to do a great job working with Andrew Wilson and the Crucible to take this space to places that before were thought unimaginable with the left-wing dominance in this space. So kudos to Andrew for giving me an opportunity. We're going to crush it. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. Enjoy this raid of Jake Rattlesnake. As always, have a good one.